My name is Tim Capstraw. I am a broadcaster with the Brooklyn Nets. Today, we are here to celebrate Coach Muffet McGraw, Dr. Solly Walker, and Coach Jay Wright. Present the Leadership Award, and I don't know, I haven't met Bob Livingston, but I hear he can talk a lot. So Bob, let's remember, even trains stop. You know what I mean?
You know, it's going to be very hard for me to limit my comments as it relates to Danny Sacco and the role that he's played in making this foundation what it is. So it's my privilege and it's my honor to introduce a man who symbolizes what this Lapchick Leadership Award is all about. Please welcome my dear friend, Danny Sacco.
One is Tim and Bob both mentioned Jim O'Connell. Jim O'Connell was the person who created this foundation, who made it all happen. Jim was the guy who brought it all together because of who he knew and how he knew it. And we will forever be grateful, and we will forever miss Jim and what he made happen here. And so last, thank you all, because if you weren't here, if you didn't support it, there is no award. We don't get a chance to award people of character who truly, truly, truly deserve to be recognized and honored in society today. So thank you all very much.
No one better could speak to the Joe Lapchick Character Award than this gentleman right here. Let's welcome Coach Gus Alfieri.
On December 2nd, 2017, which happened to be my birthday. I'm sure St. John's did that because of it. And what happened was St. John's unveiled the Joe Lapchick statue on campus, which was a major happening at St. John's. And I've got about 9,000 here. If you really want to know about Lapchick, read the book. And we still got some extra copies there. And I'm sure that it's a great book. I wrote it. Lapchick had 3 children. Barbara Lapchick is right here, and she wants to say a few words about her dad from a different point of view than I have. And I thank you for listening to me. You can give yourselves a big hand.
So I want to thank every single person who's here tonight, and those I know and those I don't know, and congratulate all of us, and congratulate ourselves for being here and for choosing this man and choosing to come to something with the word character in it. I told a friend who's European about the award, and he said, "You never hear that word anymore. No one talks about it." And this was an author and a poet who writes about character. So all of us here have a high character. And we love what we love for good reason, because it's the real thing. And my father was the real thing. Thank you.
Presenting for Coach Muffet McGraw is Sarah Lapchick. She's a former co-captain of the Notre Dame team, a successful businesswoman who then was a coach, and now she's back at Notre Dame as a director of athletic advancement. Let's welcome Sarah Lapchick.
It is exactly 1,866 miles from Amarillo, Texas to Springfield, Massachusetts, home of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, into which Coach McGraw was inducted last fall. And the significance of that distance may be lost on many of you, but for someone like myself who played for her in the prehistoric years of her career, as I like to refer to them, the years BC, before the championships, the relevancy of this distance is real. You have had your share of challenges and obstacles along the way, but you've never strayed from doing things the right way. Ladies and gentlemen, your Lapchick Character Award recipient, the Karen and Kevin Keyes family head women's basketball coach at the University of Notre Dame, Muffet McGraw.
I want to thank Jim Teague and the entire committee for the Lapchick Award. It's such an honor to receive this award, especially with Coach Lapchick's name on it. I think everything he stood for, it just makes it even more special because of the way he represented our game. Most of the things I learned about life, I learned on the basketball court. Teamwork, accountability, mental toughness, how to handle adversity, and what you can accomplish with hard work and a relentless pursuit of your goals. You also learn that life is going to knock you down sometimes, and it's not about how hard you get hit, it's about how quickly you get back up and keep moving. The best part about winning is having someone to share it with. To my husband, who's been with me every step of the way, we came to South Bend with the hope and a prayer that things would work out, and neither of us could have imagined this incredible ride. Thanks for being there, for being a great dad, a great husband, and my best friend. Thank you all.
On behalf of Mrs. Minta Walker and the family, I want to thank the Joe Lapchick Foundation, the board, for bestowing this tremendous honor on my friend, Dr. Solly Walker. Dr. Walker was a fixture in schools, centers, and tournaments where kids came to polish their skills. He also returned to school and acquired his doctorate to become a principal. I think the first African-American principal in Manhattan for 4 decades. He lived his days with love and security of a wonderful wife, family, and a companionship of treasured friends, and the respect and admiration of his community. His rich legacy of intelligence, his drive, and helping others has influenced me today. There is a correlation between Joe Lapchick and Dr. Solly Walker. They mirror the same values in life: integrity, a leader, confidence, courage, and above all, his standard was only one: excellence. I miss him, I love him, and will never forget him. How he inspired me to go above and beyond. And the hundreds of kids as well. Thank you so much, and God bless Solly Walker.
On behalf of the Walker family, we thank you. Thank you to the Joe Lapchick Foundation for the recognition, and thank you for my family for allowing me with the opportunity to speak on behalf of my grandfather. When Mom Deborah first gave me the opportunity to speak on behalf of Pop, who you're going to hear me refer to throughout the course of this little discussion that we're going to have, I was filled with so many different emotions. I was excited, I was anxious, I was proud, but very sad that physically he wasn't here to accept the award himself. Excuse me. The relationship that started back in the 1950s of two individuals who are on two opposite sides of the spectrum, but working towards a common goal, cultivated into a reconnection 65 years later between our families. And the relationship and the work that the Lapchick family has done throughout the course of the previous decades is commendable because of everything that it means to our family. And we truly appreciate everything that this foundation continues to do.
So right now I'd like to bring up to present for Jay Wright, William B.J. Johnson.
Wow, this is an amazing celebration of basketball and what everything is right in the world right now, just in terms of character and what we also strive to be. So, with a grateful heart and much love for you, Coach, I'd like to present Jay Wright.
BJ's at Brooklyn, he's with the Nets, so I'll just have BJ do it, he could go right back to work. BJ lives in North Carolina, and I forgot. He's the director of player personnel, so he travels all over the country so he can live wherever he wants. So he had to fly his entire family up here, his mother, his brothers, his wife, thank you, all of you, his aunt. Thank you guys, God bless you. It cost you a fortune. Also thank Jim McTeague and everybody at the Lapchick Foundation for including me as a part of this. This is an incredible honor. I honestly don't feel worthy, but the reason I feel it's important to accept this is to continue this great tradition of the Lapchick Foundation. It is really a great cause. You always keep your eyes on your future, and you enjoy the precious present, like today. Enjoy every opportunity you have, but you never forget where you came from. And what the Lapchick Foundation does is it reminds all of us what Coach Lapchick taught us, what Solly Walker taught us, what all the greats taught us previously about the game, about character, about respecting those who came before us, and that's what the Lapchick Foundation will always do. Now Ox Award will do that, and it's important to keep this going because those guys were about character. And there's a lot of character left in basketball, especially college basketball, and let's keep celebrating it. So never forget that what you do is important. And Patty and I know Muffet, Matt, and Dan, we are so honored to be a part of this. So thank you everybody for including us, and have a great day.
My name is Tim Capstraw. I am a broadcaster with the Brooklyn Nets. Today, we are here to celebrate Coach Muffet McGraw, Dr. Solly Walker, and Coach Jay Wright. Present the Leadership Award, and I don't know, I haven't met Bob Livingston, but I hear he can talk a lot. So Bob, let's remember, even trains stop, you know what I mean?
You know, it's going to be very hard for me to limit my comments as it relates to Danny Sacco and the role that he's played in making this foundation what it is. So it's my privilege and it's my honor to introduce a man who symbolizes what this Lapchick Leadership Award is all about. Please welcome my dear friend, Danny Sacco.
One is Tim and Bob both mentioned Jim O'Connell. Jim O'Connell was the person who created this foundation, who made it all happen. Jim was the guy who brought it all together because of who he knew and how he knew it. And we will forever be grateful, and we will forever miss Jim and what he made happen here. And so last, thank you all, because if you weren't here, if you didn't support it, there is no award. We don't get a chance to award people of character who truly, truly, truly deserve to be recognized and honored in society today. So thank you all very much.
No one better could speak to the Joe Lapchick Character Award than this gentleman right here. Let's welcome Coach Gus Alfieri.
On December 2nd, 2017, which happened to be my birthday. I'm sure St. John's did that because of it. And what happened was St. John's unveiled the Joe Lapchick statue on campus, which was a major happening at St. John's. And I've got about 9,000 here. If you really want to know about Lapchick, read the book. And we still got some extra copies there. And I'm sure that it's a great book. I wrote it. Lapchick had 3 children. Barbara Lapchick is right here, and she wants to say a few words about her dad from a different point of view than I have. And I thank you for listening to me. You can give yourselves a big hand.
So I want to thank every single person who's here tonight, and those I know and those I don't know, and congratulate all of us, and congratulate ourselves for being here and for choosing this man and choosing to come to something with the word character in it. I told a friend who's European about the award, and he said, "You never hear that word anymore. No one talks about it." And this was an author and a poet who writes about character. So all of us here have high character. And we love what we love for good reason, because it's the real thing. And my father was the real thing. Thank you.
Presenting for Coach Muffin McGraw is Sarah Liebscher. She's a former co-captain of the Notre Dame team, a successful businesswoman who then was a coach, and now she's back at Notre Dame as the Director of Athletic Advancement. Let's welcome Sarah Liebscher.
It is exactly 1,866 miles from Amarillo, Texas to Springfield, Massachusetts, home of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, into which Coach McGraw was inducted last fall. And the significance of that distance may be lost on many of you, but for someone like myself who played for her in the prehistoric years of her career, as I like to refer to them, the years BC, before the championships, the relevancy of this distance is real. You have had your share of challenges and obstacles along the way, but you've never strayed from doing things the right way. Ladies and gentlemen, your Lapchick Character Award recipient, the Karen and Kevin Keyes family head women's basketball coach at the University of Notre Dame, Muffet McGraw.
I want to thank Jim Teague and the entire committee for the Lapchick Award. It's such an honor to receive this award, especially with Coach Lapchick's name on it. I think everything he stood for, it just makes it even more special because of the way he represented our game. Most of the things I learned about life, I learned on the basketball court. Teamwork, accountability, mental toughness, how to handle adversity, and what you can accomplish with hard work and a relentless pursuit of your goals. You also learn that life is going to knock you down sometimes, and it's not about how hard you get hit, it's about how quickly you get back up and keep moving. The best part about winning is having someone to share it with. To my husband, who's been with me every step of the way, we came to South Bend with a hope and a prayer that things would work out, and neither of us could have imagined this incredible ride. Thanks for being there, for being a great dad, a great husband, and my best friend. Thank you all.
On behalf of Mrs. Minta Walker and the family, I want to thank the Joe Lapchick Foundation, the board, for bestowing this tremendous honor on my friend, Dr. Solly Walker. Dr. Walker was a fixture in schools, centers, and tournaments where kids came to polish their skills. He also returned to school and acquired his doctorate to become a principal. I think the first African-American principal in Manhattan for 4 decades. He lived his days with love and security of a wonderful wife, family, and a companionship of treasured friends, and the respect and admiration of his community. His rich legacy of intelligence, his drive, and helping others has influenced me today. There is a correlation between Joe Lapchick and Dr. Solly Walker. They mirror the same values in life: integrity, a leader, confidence, courage, and above all, his standard was only one: excellence. I miss him, I love him, and will never forget him. How he inspired me.
On behalf of the Walker family, we thank you. Thank you to the Joe Lapchick Foundation for the recognition, and thank you for my family for allowing me with the opportunity to speak on behalf of my grandfather. When Mom and Deborah first gave me the opportunity to speak on behalf of Pop, who you're going to hear me refer to throughout the course of this little discussion that we're going to have, I was filled with so many different emotions. I was excited, I was anxious, I was proud, but very sad that physically he wasn't here to accept the award himself. Excuse me. The relationship that started back in the 1950s of two individuals who are on two opposite sides of the spectrum, but working towards a common goal, cultivated into a reconnection 65 years later between our families. And the relationship and the work that the Lapchick family has done throughout the course of the previous decades is commendable because of everything that it means to our family. And we truly appreciate everything that this foundation continues to do.
So right now, I'd like to bring up to present for Jay Wright, William B.J. Johnson.
Wow, this is an amazing celebration of basketball and what everything is right in the world right now, just in terms of character and what we also strive to be. So, with a grateful heart and much love for you, Coach, I'd like to present Jay Wright.
BJ's at Brooklyn, he's with the Nets, so I'll just have BJ do it, he could go right back to work. BJ lives in North Carolina, and I forgot. He's the director of player personnel, so he travels all over the country so he can live wherever he wants. So he had to fly his entire family up here, his mother, his brothers, his wife, thank you, all of you, his aunt, thank you guys, God bless you. It cost you a fortune, I'm sorry. Also thank Jim McTeague and everybody at the Lapchick Foundation for including me as a part of this. This is an incredible honor. I honestly don't feel worthy, but the reason I feel it's important to accept this is to continue this great tradition of the Lapchick Foundation. It is really a great cause. You always keep your eyes on your future, and you enjoy the precious present, like today. Enjoy every opportunity you have, but you never forget where you came from. And what the Lapchick Foundation does is it reminds all of us what Coach Lapchick taught us, what Solly Walker taught us, what all the greats taught us previously about the game, about character, about respecting those who came before us. And that's what the Lapchick Foundation will always do. Now Ox Award will do that, and it's important to keep this going because those guys were about character. And there's a lot of character left in basketball, especially college basketball, and let's keep celebrating it. So never forget that what you do is important. And Patty and I know Buffett, Matt, and Dan, we are so honored to be a part of this. So thank you everybody for including us, and have a great day.
to again be amongst the basketball royalty of New York, and also incredibly honored to be in the presence of this year's award winners for the Joe Lapchick Award. It's really amazing. People that I have incredibly admired, and we are just going to have a great, great day. Right now to start, we'd like to have the American Bombshells that are going to be here, right here, and they're going to sing the national anthem. The Joe Lapchick Character Award Foundation is committed to encouraging and promoting good character in the sport of basketball. Each September, the foundation recognizes a group of iconic basketball figures from all levels of men's and women's basketball who have demonstrated honorable character throughout their careers, much like the legendary coach, Joe Lapchick. The idea of the Joe Lapchick Character Award and the foundation, it really comes from Gus Alfieri. Gus Alfieri wrote an amazing book. It was titled The Life of a Legendary Player and Coach in the Glory Days of Basketball. The author, again, was Gus Alfieri. He was a former player for Joe Lapchick. Played in 1959 on the St. John's NIT championship team. And he wanted to preserve the memories of his coach, who was so revered in the eyes of everyone who knew him. And to me, that just stands out amazing. Because I think he wrote this book about 2000, so that's 30 years after the fact of being coached and mentored and just admiring his coach. He took the time and the effort to write a really terrific book. And reading the book reminds you how ahead of his time Joe Lapchick was, as far as his ability to communicate with his players, even the way he carried himself, the look he had, the style he had, kind of very similar to today a little bit. And he was very much a player's coach. And again, just to have that feeling of somebody caring that much about then all the players and all the community gathering around, this is how this award began. And Gus Alfieri deserves an amazing amount of credit. Let's give him a hand. Usually Gus comes up and talks right now about his time with Joe Lapchick. Unfortunately, he's unable to be here right now, but we do have a member Jerry Houston with huge free throws in the final game in the NIT championship game and Joe Lapchick's final game. Let's bring up Jerry Houston.
Thank you. Well, thank you. It's a nice warm welcome. My name is Jerry Houston. I'd first like to start off by congratulating the Lapchick Award winners for their exceptional and outstanding accomplishments in the sport. So congratulations to our 3 inductees today. I'd also like to thank the committee for once again doing an outstanding job in putting this affair together. For those of you expecting to hear from my good friend Gus Alfieri, that's very kind of you, and thoughtful of you to speak about Gus, and the book that he put out is just terrific. But for those of you expecting to hear my good friend Gus right now, at this time you're getting his pinch hitter. Gus is a little under the weather as he misses his first Coach Lapchick bucket. Both Gus and I played similar roles under Coach Lapchick. He was a co-captain of the 58-59 championship team that won the Holiday Festival and the NIT. And I was the co-captain of the 64-65 Holiday Festival championship team and the NIT championship team, which happened to be the last game of Coach Lapchick's legendary career. I remember the first time I met Coach. I was in awe of him. I had been recruited by Coach Carnesecca, and as a result, I met Coach after I was actually enrolled in school. We were in Alumni Hall and Coach came over to me to introduce himself. As a result of that meeting, the 2 things that really impressed me and I remember. The first is, as we shook hands, I noticed how big and strong his hands were. And secondly, I noticed that he had a very noticeable twinkle in his eyes. Something I would see again in the future. As he welcomed me, he was happy to meet me. He said he was happy to meet me. He was sure I would add a lot to the program. However, during my first varsity year, which was my sophomore year, the team went 9 wins and 15 losses. A lot of people are not aware of that. And up to that point in St. John's history, that had been the team with the worst record. So we had no place to go but up, hopefully. But Coach never ever stopped being positive and offering encouragement. He would tell us, always carry yourself with pride and confidence and treat others with respect. He was always building character. That soon would pay off for him in the future, obviously. In our junior year, we were a greatly improved team and just missed the last bid to the NIT that year by winning 12 of our last 14 games, of which 5 were on the road, including a 20-point win over highly talented NYU, who already had a bid to the NIT, behind their 20-5 record. When we played them, it said we gave them a pretty good spanking. We beat them by 20 points. And that was the last day before the final nomination went out for the NIT. We was robbed, explained Lapchick, who really felt that we should have been in the NIT tournament that year because we were probably the best team in New York City. But don't take anything away from Coach Luricini and his NYU team. They had a great season. I always said, Coach said that. I always said, we always had respect for other people. We just paid that respect to Coach Luricini. So the next few minutes, I'd like to share a few stories with you about Coach the 64-65 season. Our season started out with a scrimmage in Philadelphia. And as we were on the bus heading down the Jersey Turnpike, Coach came back and he called me up to sit next to him for a moment. And he said to me, Jerry, there's going to be a press release tomorrow that is announcing both you and Kenny McIntyre are going to be co-captains of this year's team. Our guy was totally honored and privileged to be on the team. As far as any kind of co-captain or anything like that, I certainly never ever expected. And I just thought the way Coach handled that situation was just wonderful. Of course, he made me very happy. And he also said, Jerry, as both of you are co-captains, he says, I will always see you as our leader on the floor. to set a good example and help lead the team. Again, I was just totally honest. So, we come back shortly after we played the game early in the year against St. Francis of Brooklyn, and we had probably a much stronger team. And we were off to a pretty good start. And Kenny McIntyre, who was our best scorer, obviously one of our best players, he had a defensive guy playing him that just got up really close and got down really low, almost underneath Kenny. So what Kenny did, he took the basketball and he put it over the kid's head and brought it back. The defender then turned around, looking for where the ball was, and Kenny stepped back and he buried an 18-footer. I thought it was kind of a pretty cool move that Kenny made. However, Coach Lapchick did not see it that way. He couldn't call a timeout fast enough. And he pulled the team into the huddle and he singled out Kenny and he said, look, you just embarrassed and showed up a player in front of his family and friends. We don't show people up on the court or elsewhere. So he then told Kenny, have a seat, just think about what just happened. And again, I thought it was a pretty good play, but I didn't have coach's views. So that kind of gave me another further indication as to what Coach Lapchick was really like and the great respect he had for people. As the year continued on, we had a pretty good year overall, but we had two games that were maybe two of the most important games in St. John's history, certainly as far as Coach Lapchick was concerned, and me too. In the finals, we played Michigan in the finals of the Holiday Festival. We played against Michigan and Cassie Russell, a consensus All-American. They were the undefeated #1 ranked team in the country. And in that game, we were down 16 points with 8 minutes to go. We then went to Coach Conasecca's half-court press, which he fondly called the bush, which was short for ambush. Unbelievable. From that point on, we held Michigan to just one field goal in the last 8 minutes of the game. Kenny McIntyre was our leading scorer, as he usually was. And I was lucky enough to score our last 3 points as we beat Michigan 75-74. In the last moment of the game, I was going to the foul line, the coach called me aside. And put his big hand on my shoulder, and again, I saw that twinkle in his eyes, and he said, keep your head up, Jerry. I know you can do this. He was right. I made what the free throw that turned out to be the winning point in the game as we won 75-74. And the second game in that season was when we played the final game of the year against the #1 seed Villanova, a team we had lost to earlier that same year by 13 points. So last year, if you could please join me now, see if you can transport, I know in my mind I can transport back that snowy day of March 20th, 1965 at Madison Square Garden. Our starting five was Ken and Bob McIntyre, Sonny Dove, Bobby Dewar, and myself. And our first man off the bench was usually Ken Morrell. This was Coach's last game, and in what better place than the mecca of college basketball. The garden was alive with electricity. I can't tell you the feeling in that building. Even approaching that building was unbelievable. And there was a standing room only crowd of 18,499. As I walked through the tunnel down the garden going to the dressing room, Coach was standing on this side and he called me over. And he said to me, Jerry, I'd like to speak to you for a moment. So I walked over and he said to me, you know, today is your last game too. And it's going to be the swan song for you. So with that, he handed me a little gift wrap package with a bow on it. And he said to me, you can open it now if you like. And I did. And I was quite surprised. There was a set of gold cufflinks with the NBA insignia on them. I thought it was probably presented to Coach Lapchick at some previous function. He said to me, I'd like you to have these. And I was kind of in awe again. I said, holy smokes, this guy, it's his last game. He's still thinking of other people all the time. And as I looked closer in the box, there was a note in the box. And I opened the note. This note was given to me March 20th, 1965, along with the gold cufflinks. I'd like to share it with you. It's been roughed up a little bit in that time. That's 55 years or so. It said, Jerry, a small token of my appreciation for your excellent contributions to the team's success. I was proud to be with you. Signed, sincerely, Coachy. I took this thing, I just wasn't sure what to do, but I was certainly greatly honored. And I just said to him, Coach, thank you. I love you. So I headed into the locker room, and as we were in there, Coach cautioned his players to try and win this game, not to try and win this game for him, but instead to go out and win it for yourselves. Our team broke our final huddle before the game, and Coach again told his players, win this one for yourselves. The Garden was in a total frenzy. At that time, I think St. John's, they were the darlings of the city. And certainly every person in the city probably knew this was going to be Coach Lapchick's last game. The press was always behind Coach, and they gave him great notice about this game. By halftime of the game, we were hitting on all cylinders, and we had a 36-28 lead. We were on a crusade. I don't think anybody thought about winning it for themselves. But the Wildcats came back strong in the second half. And with 7 seconds left in the game, we were clinging to a 2-point lead, 53-51. We had been up 14 points midway through the half. Villanova had a really strong club. And during the final, when it was 53-51, I was fouled. And during the final timeout, Coach told the team, after Jerry makes these 2 free throws, let's fall back on defense and no fouls. After all, there was no 3-point shot back then. So he said, no fouls again. I thought, what confidence this coach has. Jeez, I hope I can make these shots. We returned to the floor, and again, it was like bedroom in the Garden. We returned to the floor, and Coach called me back and placed his big hand on my shoulder. And yes, he had that famous twinkle in his eyes. He said to me, you can do this, Jerry. You can do this. And he was right. I made both free throws to ice out win over Villanova, 55-51, for our coach, Coach Lapchick. And I think the guys are kind of happy with the win, too. And we also had won a 4th unprecedented NIT title, which was another little feather for Coach. And that made everybody happy. At the end of the game, all hell broke loose in the Garden. After the win, it was a storybook ending to a great coaching career. And as Coach was uncharacteristically carried around the Garden floor by his team to the thunderous ovation of the standing room only crowd, he summed it up best by shouting out, "What a way to go! What a way to go!" He was certainly right. It was a great way to go for him and his team. So those are some of the things that stand out in my mind about Coach Lapchick. And as many of you probably have heard the saying, behind every great man is a great woman. That was certainly the case here. Her name was Bobby Lapchick, Coach's beautiful wife. I got to know her pretty well after Coach's death. I'd visit her at home in Yonkers, and on occasion we'd go out to dinner. She was lovely. She was bright. She was articulate. She was very kind, patient, and very easygoing, and just a very most pleasant person. She was the main person to comfort Coach, her husband, when he returned home from a hard day on the basketball court for more than 50 years. Coach was a very lucky man to have her. And I was a very lucky man to have both of them. I really cherish my relationship with them. I also got to know the rest of the Lapchick family, including Richie and his beautiful wife, Ann, who's over here now, and who are here with us today, and I'm proud to have maintained a wonderful relationship with them through these many years. And now I'll finish up by relating one last story about Coach, one which again revealed more about the man and his character. It was back in 1966, and of all places, Madison Square Garden. A teammate of mine, Kenny Worrell, and I had met Coach in the lobby, and we were talking to him. It was a halftime of the St. John's game. The lobby itself was packed and very noisy, and as we were talking with Coach, all of a sudden, out of the blue, comes charging Howard Cosell. And he barged right into our conversation. He had a cigar in his mouth and he was saying, Joe, I got to talk to you. I got to talk to you for a minute. You know how it is when somebody interrupts your conversation, totally disrespects you and disregards you? It's not a nice feeling. So Howard had just finished his call to Coach. And as many of you probably know, Cosell was a very aggressive and arrogant reporter. At that moment, Coach Lapchick held up his hand and said, Howard, excuse me. I'm talking to two of the young men who helped make me a famous coach. I'll be with you in a few moments. Well, the cigar kind of hung from Cosell's mouth, and he was kind of like flabbergasted. It's just kind of nice to see, too. Ken and I, we soon took our leave, but I'll always remember how Coach treated people with dignity and respect. Thanks, Coach, and thank all of you here for listening and showing me your respect. Thank you.
Beautiful job, Chair. You're MCing next year, by the way. I'd like to acknowledge that some people in the crowd, it's really difficult because it's an awful lot, but when you walked in earlier and you saw the display, that was Pete Berry was an original Celtic and a teammate of Joe Lapchick, and the display and all the incredible. If you get a chance, if you didn't see on the way in and the way out, Bill Berry, we just really, his grandson, we really appreciate you bringing that stuff. The old Celtic stuff here, it's really awesome. A few of the people, and this is going to get uncomfortable, because I saw Linda Bruno here. She's done an amazing job with everything. Gene Doris, I see here. Ed Cole, welcome from Fordham University. We love the work you're doing. Lenny Kaplan from NJIT. Don Kent from McClancy. And Don Kent some people are just awesome, and you're one of those people. And we love you. Glenn Branca from St. Francis, New York. And it just goes on and on. It's impossible. I don't know. I'm just kind of looking around and seeing it. But I got talking to a few of the people, and I said, who's the best players here? And we can't, Len Elmore doesn't count. Who's the best players? You know, the guys with the mileage here. Some guys with real mileage. The names came up like Walt Zerbiak, Georgie Bruns, Art Kenny, Jimmy Signorelli, Dennis McDermott, Kenny Grant, and of course Ray Nash. That was the punchline, Ray Nash. Sorry. Who's the biggest of all those guys? Who would be the guy who's the biggest gunner of that group? I'm just curious. Who would be the biggest gunner of that group? Who's the biggest gunner? And remember, Billy Schaefer's not here right now, so he doesn't count. All right, this is like year 6 for me. I'm running out of materials. Give me a break, will you? To repeat some stuff. Right now, we're going to bring up Joe Lapchick's son, who's made an incredible name for himself as a human rights activist and writer and speaker and communicator, and the work he has done to help just everyone and make this world a better place. He's written 17 books, and it's just an incredibly impressive man. If you get a chance, I'm sure most of you are very familiar with him. If you get a chance, read up on Richard Lapchick. The work he's done And again, boy, you know, just amazing, amazing work. And right now, just to keep it simple, I'm just going to bring up Richard Lapchick.
Thank you for those kind words. Jerry, you brought me back to Madison Square Garden on that day. Jerry was one of my dad's favorite players. As he said, after my dad passed in 1970, he was frequently there to be with my mom. He was at her grave. I'll always remember he was at her gravesite when we laid her to rest for the final time. I want to apologize for our attire. We flew up from Orlando yesterday. We flew through Detroit unexpectedly and got here at 4 in the morning, and our bags never got here. So we're a little more casually dressed than we intended to be, but I'm humbled to be asked to speak about my father at this great event. I'm grateful to Gus Alfieri for writing the book that started this, to the Joe Lapchick Character Award Foundation for creating these awards, to Madison Square Garden Television for doing the movie Lapchick in Clifton. All those things were done 30 years after my dad passed. It's now 50 years since he's passed, and to think that people come together to honor him means so much to our family. I want to congratulate our award winners. Coach Gillen, thank you for the great career you've had and all the lives you've had an impact on. Len Elmore, for your brilliance as a basketball player, but also your brilliance academically, a Harvard Law School graduate, teaching at Columbia now. Just an amazing human being who's fought for dignity and human rights himself for many years. And Nancy Lieberman, I was lucky enough to be working in Norfolk, Virginia when Nancy was playing in her first 2 years at Old Dominion. Saw her play before we met her in Dallas. A number of years later, we've been close friends of this great pioneer in basketball, an amazing human being. It's great to be with you this afternoon, Nancy. I call my father the first activist athlete. He didn't take a knee, he didn't go out in the streets to protest, but he just did the right thing both ethically and in terms of race. It's obviously a different world. It's amazing we're all here together. For many of us, this is the first time I've been in a room with a lot of people without masks in almost 20 months. The pandemic started, and I think we were kind of bumbling along, and sport made me proud. When Rudy Gobert tested positively and Adam Silver shut down the NBA 2 hours later, the rest of the sport shut down right away. It's estimated that if the country had shut down at that time, more than 50,000 lives would have been saved, but sport was there. We saw the big-heartedness of sport literally the next day after it shut down, when a 19-year-old rookie who had never played an NBA game donated $1 million to help support the workers in New Orleans who wouldn't be covering his games with the Pelicans. The sports teams, individuals, coaches donated $150 million in the next 6 weeks to COVID relief efforts to try to keep the country whole. We obviously felt a vacuum without sport, and then the murder of George Floyd changed America. We talked a lot about police brutality at the time, but I think for those of us who are still involved, it's about the systemic racism that is faced in our country by so many people. We talk about discrimination in housing and education and healthcare and financial institutions, the criminal justice system. I have been encouraging athlete activism for decades. I've been lucky enough to be friends with John Carlos and Tommy Smith, with Billie Jean King, with Arthur Ashe and others. They were lonely voices for a long time, but they're no longer lonely voices. When the Milwaukee Bucks didn't come out for the playoff game in the NBA bubble, I think it changed everything, because the league, the Players Association, and so many other athletes have gotten involved to try to bring about social change in our country. My dad taught me about ethical issues. When Jack Kaiser, who couldn't be here today, he's now 94, former athletic director at St. John's, but was the freshman coach when my dad was there. He gave me a letter written by my dad to a former player who had served in Europe at the end of World War II. And the letter said something about my father told him that he'd been offered the head coaching job of the New York Knicks. He loved the pro game. He wanted to take the job, but he promised his players he wouldn't leave until they graduated. So my father didn't take the Knicks job at first. He took it a couple of years later. But what that showed me is be loyal to the institution you work for. If you're not happy with that institution, move someplace else. But if you're there, serve it and serve it well. Bob Cousy told me the next two stories. Cousy told me that he wrote to my dad and after his freshman year as the top player in the country at Holy Cross and said he wanted to transfer to St. John's. And my dad wrote back to him as the coach of St. John's and said, stay at Holy Cross. Doggy Julian's a great coach. He'll get a great education. If you want to play in the NBA, he'll prepare you for that or prepare you for other things. Cousy, of course, stayed in the NBA and became one of the top 50 players of the first 50 years of the NBA. But how many coaches today would write back to the top player in the country and say, stay where you are? Playing in Boston Garden 5 years later in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals, it's the Celtics against the Knicks. My dad is now the coach of the Knicks. He played for the Celtics, but he was the coach of the Knicks. Cousy scores a layup, and my dad's player named Carl Braun knocks the ball out from under the rim. The referees weren't in a position to see where the ball was. They thought that it wasn't good, but it was in the cylinder. They let the Knicks take the ball back up court, and my father, the coach of the Knicks, called the timeout and told them that the Celtics basket was good. They scored the basket for them. They won the game by 1 point. The Celtics went on to the NBA Finals for the first time. The Knicks went home. I'll never forget that at my father's, at the wake for my father in 1970, all those Knicks players were there, and individually they came up to me and said one by one, I remember what your father did in Boston. I thought he was crazy at the time, but it was the most important ethical issue that I've ever learned. He went back to St. John's in 1956 after 10 years with the Knicks, and the athletic moderator came up to him and said, Joe, we found out your players aren't going to class. They weren't going to class in the 10 years he was gone, and they weren't going to class in the first 10 years he was there. And my father and Lou Carnesecca, his assistant at the time, started what was the first mandatory study hall in the history of college sport. I speak on a lot of college campuses, especially to athletes, and I tell them if you're upset that you have to go to study hall at night, you can blame my father for it because he started this quite a while ago. But it was really on the issue of race that I learned the most from my father. When my dad played for the Celtics, there was no integrated team and there were no white teams playing against black teams. So they decided they wanted to develop a relationship with the Renaissance Five, the great black team of that era, and my dad developed a friendship with Bobby Douglas, the owner of the team. And I just want to take a second to introduce, if you don't know the Wrens, sitting at our table is Leon Gray, who's an actor, a producer, a playwright, and he did a play called The Kings of Harlem about the Wrens, and he's now having it produced into a movie. If you have a chance to read about the Wrens, if you haven't, you need to. It's an incredible story. But my dad, whatever town they were playing in, the Celtics would go to whatever hotel they wanted to stay in. He would watch the Wrens board a bus that their owner, Bobby Douglas, had bought for them because he knew they wouldn't be accommodated in those same hotels. The Celtics would go and have dinner wherever they wanted, and he'd watch the Wrens bring food onto the bus because he knew they wouldn't be served in those restaurants. On 3 occasions, they pulled out of town in tandem to play wherever they were going to play the next day, and the Wrens bus pulled into the gas station first. And my father watched the owner of the gas station come out with a rifle because he wasn't about to serve gas from his lily white pumps to this group of all black players. There were actually 3 race riots that took place during games between the Wrens and the Celtics. Interestingly, none in the South, all in the Midwest. And I think enough people in here are old enough to know that basketball used to be called the net game, and a lot of people think it was because of the net under the rim. The term actually evolved because owners of the arenas where the Wrens and the Celtics were going to play built a net around the court so that the fans couldn't get to them and attack the players on the court for having the boldness to play against each other. My dad and his opposing center, Tarzan Cooper, would greet each other before the game started and not just shake hands, but frequently embrace each other and kiss each other. This is the 1920s and 30s because they wanted people in the stands to understand this wasn't just about a Hall of Fame basketball game. It was about what their vision was that America could someday become. In 1947, Bobby Douglas and my dad made a presentation to the emerging NBA to get the Wrens admitted as a team into the NBA. Ned Irish, the owner of the Knicks, came out and told my father and Bobby Douglas that the decision had been turned down. And my dad said to Bobby Douglas that he was going to resign as the coach of the Knicks. Bobby Douglas said, "You can't do that, Joe. You have to stay here. Someday you may get the opportunity to make a difference." So in 1950, some of you know that my dad signed Nat Sweetwater Clifton. He was the first black player signed in the history of the NBA. And in October of that year, Nat and Chuck Cooper and Earl Lloyd took the floor for the first time, breaking that color barrier. In 1952, my dad asked me if I wanted to come meet Jackie Robinson. I was 7 years old. I was a Dodger fan. My dad had actually pitched in the Dodgers organization before he went to the Celtics. And I didn't know Jackie's social significance, but he was the star of the team I rooted for, so of course I wanted to meet him. Spent a little time with him in the garden where they were making this presentation to raise money for a charity. And after the event was over, my dad, as he was known to do, would court the New York media and bring them to Mama Leone's restaurant, which was a famous Italian restaurant near the old garden. And I'm now this young kid. The restaurant is closed. They opened it for my dad, and the most famous writer in New York City shouted across the bar to his colleagues, who were of course all white men, and said, "Did you see that N showboating?" referring to Jackie Robinson. And I'll always remember the grip. Jerry talked about my father's big hands. The grip he put on my arm, I can still feel it to this day. And he said, "Some people only know how to hate." I didn't know what it meant, but I knew there was something wrong in the country I was growing up in. Several years ago, I was lucky enough to be inducted into the New York City Basketball Hall of Fame. My dad had been inducted a lot of years before that, and we became the only father and son in the New York City Basketball Hall of Fame. I've been lucky enough to be recognized for a number of things over the years, but joining my dad in that august place is probably one of my favorites. So again, I learned the values of ethics and diversity and inclusion from my father. He taught me to fight for civil rights and to stand up for justice and not block its path. There's something about sport, and we have more women and people of color running our sport, and they're going to have voices that are going to affect positive social change in our society. So when I started doing what I'm doing for the last 50 years in terms of human rights and civil rights, I was with a trainer who was doing a facilitated workshop, and she asked everybody to write what they'd like to see on their tombstone. And what I wrote that day could equally be applied to what would have been on my dad's tombstone if the time was right. You didn't have to be Jewish to want to fight against anti-Semitism. You didn't have to be a person of color to want to fight against racism. You didn't have to be a woman to want to fight against sexism. You didn't have to be from the LGBTQ community to want to fight against homophobia. You didn't have to be Muslim to want to fight against Islamophobia. You didn't have to have a disability to want to fight for people who do. You didn't have to be poor to want to fight against poverty. You didn't have to be a refugee or an immigrant to fight against xenophobia. He understood that we were all cut from the same human fabric. Again, to our winners tonight, congratulations. You're in great company. I want to wish everybody a wonderful afternoon, and thank you for being here, and thank you for remembering my son.
This past year, we lost a couple of great people in the basketball community. One, Marty Groveman, who played at CCNY. He's a great player. Just one of those guys everybody knew. He was just everywhere on Long Island. He was a really good player, a really good coach, mentor to so many. He was always so tan. I always remember Marty being so tan. And of course, Tom Konchalski. And I know so many of you honored him recently, and Tom Konchalski was amazing. I know you know him in so many different ways. But what I used to do, and we used to wait, and I'm sure Coach Gillen would appreciate this, and different coaches here, Coach Breika, I would wait for the HSBI report to come. And it was amazing to learn about the players, but it was even more amazing you'd see the words and the phrases that Tom Konchalski would use. He was one of the most eloquent and funny human beings you'd ever. I don't think people know that part of him. And I'll just give you a feel for some of the things that would be in these reports. Guy getting a good rebounder, tips like Sinatra, a guy that needs to be tougher, nose must calcify, great leaper, elevates like Otis, metabolism of a hummingbird, Charmony soft touch, scores like we breathe. Guys that couldn't jump, they'd say, no match for Earth's gravitational pull. A guy you needed to wait some time for, don't expect the instant coffee. And it would go on and on and on as some of the greatest writing that I would read. And I know Coach Gillen, especially with his sense of humor, I'm sure really appreciated every time that would come. So we certainly miss Marty, and we miss Tom, and another gentleman I know we all miss. Lost him a couple years ago. Is Jim O'Connell, Ock. One of the great ones. His son Andrew is here today. Watched him grow up kind of here and there along the way. Sisters Winnie and Mary, we go back a long time also. There are, I'm so glad we have this award. And it's a great opportunity. And me and Ock used to go to these writers' luncheons, and a standard joke for us would be that they said this thing called the Good Guy Award. And it's usually for kind of a guy that might be struggling coaching or something like that, kind of like me. And it was, give the award. But I would go up each week and promote myself for the Good Guy Award. And I used to love that. So, listen, my coaching record, I don't got a shot at a Lapchick Award. I understand that. But I'm planting the seed right now. Next 10 years, I'm planting the seed, McTommy. I want the Leadership Award here, Jim O'Connell, all right? I'm going for it, all right? It's for volunteering. It's for doing a lot of stuff. And if you guys that know Jim McTommy, I have to get his phone calls for about a month leading up to this thing. So I deserve something to plant. I'm planting a seed right now. Right now we're going to bring up to present this year's leadership, Jim O'Connell Leadership Award, a former chair of this event, former integral part of the Joe Lapchick Character Foundation, and just an unbelievable contributor. This is Dan Sapper. I'm honored.
Okay, so first of all, let me say thank you, Tim, and then say thank you to all of you, because there's no event, there's no opportunity to do all the things we do without you coming every year and supporting us and doing the things you do. So on behalf of the foundation, I say thank you to all of you for being here and being a part of this. This morning you heard from Tim that this foundation has its roots in Gus's book. And Gus wrote the book, and a few years later, there was a dinner, 2006, in New York City here. There were 4 of us at that dinner. Gus, and I know you're watching now, Gus, get better, we need you at this event. Gus Alfieri, the late, great Jimmy O'Connell, who we miss every day. Bob Livingston, our first chairperson, who's also watching virtually today, and myself. And at that dinner, we said the book was so well done, and there was so much stuff about character in our nation, that maybe we could do an award and build a foundation based upon character. Not on wins and losses, not on other things that people look at, but on character, that this nation could use character. And we walked out of that dinner that night, and as I walked out, the first thing that was in my mind was, at the base of any organization, at the base of any company, foundation, business, or whatever, it's people. You have to have the right people. People who truly care and want to be a part of building something. People who are not in it for personal glory and personal gain, but they're doing it for the greater good. People who, when they say, I'll get that done, deliver it on time and below budget. People who see an obstacle and walk right through it because they find solutions. I knew walking out of that dinner, that would be the hard thing to do. That would be the challenge that we would face. I went to a business dinner not long after that, and I'm sitting at the business dinner, and sitting next to me is Lori Raines. And I tell Lori about this foundation, and she says, you know, Dan, that's something I'd like to know more about and be a part of, and maybe even join up and help out a little. Before they brought dessert, I had contract signed with Lori to be part of this organization. Because I knew Lori. I knew who she was. I knew what she did. And what the committee found out as we went along, that this was a pro. This was somebody you could lean on and be an anchor for what you were trying to do. And that's what you needed. So Lori became the point guard of our team. She's the person who puts it all together, so that on this day, when it happens, we're all here. This is the 13th event through 5 different venues. And I can stand here and tell you, I can't remember the first problem we ever had. Because that's the kind of person Lori is. That's what she brought to this team. And so to honor her today with this leadership award for making a difference for our foundation is just a natural thing. And the fact that so many of you in the room, probably half of you, have been here year after year after year. Everybody who's ever left the event says, what a great event this was, how well it was run, and I want to be a part of it coming back. That's because of our point guard, delivering when she has to deliver and getting it all done. So I want to say congratulations to Lori on earning this award. We're proud of you. And I also want to say one more thank you before I turn it over to you. I want to thank Dale, your husband, and Allie and Morgan, your 2 daughters, for the support I know they gave you to allow you to go do those things. Allie and Morgan, in my career, I've always given people the greatest accolade you can give is you made a difference. Your mom truly made a difference for this foundation. And you should be proud of her, and we're proud of her, and we thank her. Lori.
Thank you, Danny, for those kind words, and to the committee as well for the award. But I do want to also congratulate the winners today. I think I have a little bit of a personal relationship with some of them. Nancy, you learned earlier that my niece and I were very thankful for the trailblazer that you were for women's basketball. And Len Elmore, you may not know, but my sister and I grew up in Maryland, and we were big Terps and Bullets fans. And Pete Gillen, I don't know you personally, but we have had great conversations with Stu Kessler in the past and told us many things, great stories about you. And unfortunately, I couldn't quite get past the idea that UVA never accepted me to school, so I couldn't really root for you, but knew that you have been a great coach. So what you might not know is that Dan Sacco was my work coach. And as a work coach, he always pushed people to probably farther than they thought they could go, and probably had more confidence in them than they had themselves. So I thank him for that. And I think he remembered that conversation a little bit differently. Because as a work coach, you kind of get loyal to your coach, right? And so with Danny at that dinner, he was telling me about this award that he was involved in. And I kind of used a throwaway phrase of, you know, if there's anything I can do, let me know if I can help. And suddenly I was looking for venues and signing contracts and scheduling this lunch for the past 9 years. So, but the one thing that I've learned through all of this is how great the coaches are with their players, and how much the players learn so that they'd never learn in class. And it's been very impressive for the probably hundreds of thousands of young players that you all have probably or have influenced. And to show how much I've learned, a quick story that I have. My husband and I were out one night, a few years ago, we were watching March Madness tournament with some friends, and others came in and were watching with us, and kind of looked up at the screen, and Duke was on the screen, and they said, "Oh, I hope Duke loses. I hate Coach K." I'm like, "Hate Coach K? How can you hate him? He's a winning coach." Well, that's it. He's always winning. And so I explained to him, do you understand why that is? He's a 60-plus-year-old man. He's got kids coming in year after year, young kids, that he knows how to relate to, that he knows how to motivate, that he knows how to inspire and to win with year after year. How do you hate that? And he looked at me. This gentleman was dumbfounded. I think, one, because I knew so much about Coach K, and two, that I was so passionate about the topic. And that happened to be the event, or the March Madness, right after Coach K had won this Joe Lapchick Character Award. So again, I want to congratulate all the winners and just say that I'm really excited to hear your stories and your presenter stories about all the great things that you've done for those young people that have you've inspired over the years. So thank you.
We are once again very appreciative of the fact that we will have the Archbishop of the Diocese of Rockville Center here again, Bishop Barris, give us a little talk, a little invocation, and you are really just a big part of the basketball community, and we appreciate all the time that you take to come and spend time with us. So right now, Bishop Barris, Bishop of the Archdiocese of Rockville Center.
It's a great honor, as always, to be with you today and support the noble goals of the Joe Lapchick Character Award Foundation. I too offer my congratulations to our awardees for the way they model for us the character and virtue lessons of Joe Lapchick, and it's always great to be with you, Richard. Very grateful. Always love your talks. Thank you. I played 3 years of JV basketball at Princeton, and I don't get up in basketball circumstances without giving tribute to my JV coaches at Princeton, because they taught me so much. And of course, Coach Carrill's a dear friend as well. Eddie Riley, who was a point guard in the mid-'70s for Holy Cross, a great coach, now the athletic director at Worcester Academy. Some of you remember a great Archbishop Malloy grad, Mickey Stoyer, who was a guard with Armand Hill, led the Princeton team to the NIT championship through a string of upsets at the Garden. I'll never forget that. And of course, Bob Duquette. Many of you remember Bob Duquette from Livingston, New Jersey, played for Bob Cousy at Boston College, a great scorer, a great personality, great sense of humor. I celebrated his funeral in June of 2009. So I just wanted to give tribute to these great coaches who mean a heck of a lot to me personally. I also stay in close contact with Coach Pete Carrill, who's now 91 years old. He was a 2011 recipient of the Joe Lapchick Character Award, and I know he'd want me to extend to all of you his best wishes. Been asked to offer just a few brief words before I offer our grace this afternoon. On Friday, September 10th, I attended an evening of tribute and remembrance at Archbishop Malloy High School for Tom Konchalski, and you were very eloquent about his basketball report, his great use of the English language, his wit, and the way he seasoned with integrity and excellence the New York basketball world, but the U.S. basketball world as well. I had first met Tom at the 2017 Lapchick luncheon right here at the New York Hotel in the lobby. The reason I met him is because I was with Jim McTighe and Gus Alfieri, and I said, does anyone remember my CYO coach at St. Augustine's in Larchmont, New York, Joe Gallick? He was a role player he was an Iona Gale in the early 70s, and he's the one who really opened the door for me in terms of the game of basketball, the love of basketball, and just the virtue of Joe. I had a chance to visit his grave in New Rochelle, and I just honor his memory. He means so much to me to this day. And of course, no one remembered the 6'5" role player at Iona who, got very little time. But Jim did say to me, if there's anyone here who knows Joe Gallick, it is Tom Konchalski. And of course, he brought me up to Tom Konchalski, and of course, Tom remembered Joe Gallick. As everyone here today knows, Tom is a legend of the New York and U.S. basketball world. He worked with Howard Garfinkel, who was recently inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame at the 5-Star Basketball Camp. And as was previously said, he published his high school Basketball Illustrated college scouting report, which so many people relied on. Tom will most likely be inducted in the Hall of Fame in the near future. Tom Konchalski saw his work in basketball as a ministry of Catholic evangelization. His integrity, honesty, excellence, humility, and charity were a gentle and respectful light of Christ, an expression of the mission of mercy of the Catholic Church to basketball coaches at every level, the parents, the players, and the many communities, Catholic and non-Catholic, that he served. So many coaches, Coach Mike Krzyzewski, Coach John Calipari, Coach Phil Martelli, have spoken eloquently of Tom's friendship and what it has meant to them. His influence, the quality and charity of his talent evaluations, and his ethical integrity. They have even called him a saint. In having the privilege of saying a few words and offering an invocation at his tribute on September 10th, I shared the following words, which I in turn share with you today, because they resonate so deeply with the vision and purpose of the Lapchick Character Award. What was Tom Konchalski's humble secret? Why was he such a five-star rock of integrity, honesty, and excellence in the basketball world that he loved and served? A very substantial part of the answer to these questions comes from J.R.R. Tolkien, who once wrote some words that it could have easily come from Tom's lips. I put before you the one great thing to love on earth, the body and blood of Jesus Christ. There you will find true honor, true romance, and the true way of all your loves upon earth. Tom was a daily communicant, which means that he went to the Catholic Mass not only faithfully on Sunday, but every day of the week. I remember just watching the Zoom call recently with Coach K, Coach Calipari, and Coach Martelli, and Coach Martelli saying they had an appointment at the Palestra, and it was Good Friday, and Tom came in, and they went to a Good Friday service, and just Phil was talking about just the natural kind of reverence and humility with which he honored our Lord's Paschal mystery. Tom Konchalski lived the rhythm of the Mass, and it was the foundation of his witness of integrity and excellence in the basketball world. If we are Catholic, and for some reason far from the Eucharist and the Mass, may we remember Tom's shining, humble face, gently beckoning and gently encouraging us in friendship to come back to the altar of sacrifice and the unbloody renewal of Christ's sacrifice on Calvary, celebrated at every Catholic Mass. And for Tom's many ecumenical, interfaith, agnostic, and atheist friends, may his shining faith inspire each of us to direct our lives more deeply to God. Let us pray. God, our Creator, thank you for the gift of being together today and the gift of sharing together the character-forging and virtue-driven history, stories, and dimensions of the game of basketball that we all love. Help us all to be instruments of your grace and mercy. Bless us, O Lord, in these thy gifts that we are about to receive from thy bounty. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop. We will now break for lunch and come back with the highlights of our show, the Lapchick Character Award winners. Recognize them. My name is Tim Capstraw. I am a broadcaster with the Brooklyn Nets. Today, we are here to celebrate Coach Muffet McGraw, Dr. Solly Walker, and Coach Jay Wright. Present the Leadership Award, and I don't know, I haven't met Bob Livingston, but I hear he can talk a while. So Bob, let's remember, even trains stop. You know what I mean?
You know, it's going to be very hard for me to limit my comments as it relates to Danny Sacco and the role that he's played in making this foundation what it is. So it's my privilege and it's my honor to introduce a man who symbolizes what this Lapchick Leadership Award is all about. Please welcome my dear friend, Danny Sacco.
One is Tim and Bob both mentioned Jim O'Connell. Jim O'Connell was the person who created this foundation, who made it all happen. Jim was the guy who brought it all together because of who he knew and how he knew it. And we will forever be grateful, and we will forever miss Jim and what he made happen here. And so last, thank you all, because if you weren't here, if you didn't support it, there is no award. We don't get a chance to award people of character who truly, truly, truly deserve to be recognized and honored in society today. So thank you all very much.
No one better could speak to the Joe Lapchick Character Award than this gentleman right here. Let's welcome Coach Gus Alfieri.
On December 2nd, 2017, which happened to be my birthday. I'm sure St. John's did that because of it. And what happened was St. John's unveiled the Joe Lapchick statue on campus, which was a major happening at St. John's. And I've got about 9,000 here. If you really want to know about Lapchick, read the book. And we still got some extra copies there. And I'm sure that it's a great book. I wrote it. Lapchick had 3 children. Barbara Lapchick is right here, and she wants to say a few words about her dad from a different point of view than I have. And I thank you for listening to me. You can give yourselves a big hand.
So I want to thank every single person who's here tonight, and those I know and those I don't know, and congratulate all of us, and congratulate ourselves for being here and for choosing this man and choosing to come to something with the word character in it. I told a friend who's European about the award, and he said, "You never hear that word anymore. No one talks about it." And this was an author and a poet who writes about character. So all of us here have a high character. And we love what we love for good reason, because it's the real thing. And my father was the real thing. Thank you.
Presenting for Coach Muffet McGraw is Sarah Liebscher. She's a former co-captain of the Notre Dame team, a successful businesswoman who then was a coach, and now she's back at Notre Dame as the Director of Athletic Advancement. Let's welcome Sarah Liebscher.
It is exactly 1,866 miles from Amarillo, Texas to Springfield, Massachusetts, home of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, into which Coach McGraw was inducted last fall. And the significance of that distance may be lost on many of you, but for someone like myself who played for her in the prehistoric years of her career, as I like to refer to them, the years BC, before the championships, the relevancy of this distance is real. You have had your share of challenges and obstacles along the way, but you've never strayed from doing things the right way. Ladies and gentlemen, your Lapchick Character Award recipient, the Karen and Kevin Keys family head women's basketball coach at the University of Notre Dame, Muffet McGraw.
I want to thank Jim Teague and the entire committee for the Lapchick Award. It's such an honor to receive this award, especially with Coach Lapchick's name on it. I think everything he stood for, it just makes it even more special because of the way he represented our game. Most of the things I learned about life, I learned on the basketball court. Teamwork, accountability, mental toughness, how to handle adversity, and what you can accomplish with hard work and a relentless pursuit of your goals. You also learn that life is going to knock you down sometimes, and it's not about how hard you get hit, it's about how quickly you get back up and keep moving. The best part about winning is having someone to share it with. To my husband, who's been with me every step of the way, we came to South Bend with the hope and a prayer that things would work out, and neither of us could have imagined this incredible ride. Thanks for being there, for being a great dad, a great husband, and my best friend. Thank you all.
On behalf of Mrs. Minta Walker and the family, I want to thank the Joe Lapchick Foundation, the board, for bestowing this tremendous honor on my friend, Dr. Solly Walker. Dr. Walker was a fixture in schools, centers, and tournaments where kids came to polish their skills. He also returned to school and acquired his doctorate to become a principal. I think the first African-American principal in Manhattan for 4 decades. He lived his days with love and security of a wonderful wife, family, and a companionship of treasured friends, and the respect and admiration of his community. His rich legacy of intelligence, his drive, and helping others has influenced me today. There is a correlation between Joe Lapchick and Dr. Solly Walker. They mirror the same values in life: integrity, a leader, confidence, courage, and above all, his standard was only one: excellence. I miss him, I love him, and will never forget him. How he inspired me to go above and beyond. And the hundreds of kids as well. Thank you so much, and God bless Solly Walker.
On behalf of the Walker family, we thank you. Thank you to the Joe Lapchick Foundation for the recognition, and thank you for my family for allowing me with the opportunity to speak on behalf of my grandfather. When Mom and Deborah first gave me the opportunity to speak on behalf of Pop, who you're going to hear me refer to throughout the course of this little discussion that we're going to have, I was filled with so many different emotions. I was excited, I was anxious, I was proud, but very sad that physically he wasn't here to accept the award himself. Excuse me. The relationship that started back in the 1950s of two individuals who were on two opposite sides of the spectrum, but working towards a common goal, cultivated into a reconnection 65 years later between our families. And the relationship and the work that the Lapchick family has done throughout the course of the previous decades is commendable because of everything that it means to our family. And we truly appreciate everything that this foundation continues to do.
So right now I'd like to bring up to present for Jay Wright, William B.J. Johnson.
Wow, this is an amazing celebration of basketball and what everything is right in the world right now, just in terms of character and what we also strive to be. So, with a grateful heart and much love for you, Coach, I'd like to present Jay Wright.
BJ's at Brooklyn, he's with the Nets, so I'll just have BJ do it, he could go right back to work. BJ lives in North Carolina, and I forgot. He's the director of player personnel, so he travels all over the country so he can live wherever he wants. So he had to fly his entire family up here, his mother, his brothers, his wife, thank you, all of you, his aunt. Thank you guys, God bless you. It cost you a fortune. I'm sorry. Also thank Jim McTeague and everybody at the Lapchick Foundation for including me as a part of this. This is an incredible honor. I honestly don't feel worthy, but the reason I feel it's important to accept this is to continue this great tradition of the Lapchick Foundation. It is really a great cause. You always keep your eyes on your future, and you enjoy the precious present, like today. Enjoy every opportunity you have, but you never forget where you came from. And what the Lapchick Foundation does is it reminds all of us what Coach Lapchick taught us, what Solly Walker taught us, what all the greats taught us previously about the game, about character, about respecting those who came before us, and that's what the Lapchick Foundation will always do. Now Ox Award will do that, and it's important to keep this going because those guys were about character. And there's a lot of character left in basketball, especially college basketball, and let's keep celebrating it. So never forget that what you do is important. And Patton and I know Muffet, Matt, and Dan, we are so honored to be a part of this. So thank you everybody for including us, and have a great day.
won 2 AIAW national championships. She also won a WNIT championship. She's the first 2-time winner of the prestigious Wade Trophy for the National Player of the Year. She's a professional player, coach, NBA assistant coach. It's an executive and an outstanding broadcaster. What stands out to me is that everybody knew who Nancy Lieberman was. It stands out to me. This was at a time when Title IX was in its infancy. It was kind of a few years in. And it was a big deal, but it wasn't all that big deal. And sometimes you needed some credibility. And along came this girl from Far Rockaway High School who attends an Old Dominion University, and she's got game. Or does she have game? Called a Lady Magic. We all kind of knew who Nancy Lieberman was. And we watched. And it was fun. Because she not only played the game, but she's played the game with like what New York City was known for forever. A flair, a style. She had it, and she was a female. And the credibility of Title IX, of other, and think about what that might have done for so many kids along the way, females along the way. Amazing. Amazingly, the presenter I got to talk about also. One of the great commercials, and I had to watch it again because it gives me chills, is Still I Rise. If you go home and you YouTube it, Still I Rise. And it's about University of Phoenix is promoting the greatness of one of their students. And this student was a teammate of Nancy Lieberman on the 76 Olympic team. But she herself has become an incredible businesswoman, made an incredible name for herself in a number of different areas. And if you get a chance, again, Still I Rise is one of the great, I know it won awards, it's one of the great commercials. And it's all about this woman and her accomplishments. So right now we're going to bring up as a presenter, Gail Marquis, to present Nancy Lieberman the Joe Lapchick Character Award.
Well, thank you so much. Well, since you took my opening line, I have nothing to say. Hi, my name is Gail Marquis, and I got the great pleasure to introduce my teammate, my friend. I think she still owes me money, Nancy Lieberman. We grew up together as opponents. We grew up together as teammates. Both of us from Queens, New York, which wasn't really the basketball capital of New York City. But that's where we were. We ran the parks, but we ran them separately. I didn't know Nancy until she came and we met at the Brevoort projects in Brooklyn. Or maybe it was at the Rutgers games in Harlem. She was on my team, sometimes she was against me on a different team. What I enjoyed so much about her, beside that flaming red hair, and that's when red was red at that time, that flaming red hair, she played with such passion, such vigor. She was blind as to what her limits could be. And I was like, dang, I don't even know her. How was she snatching the rebound with one hand and cupping it before a lot of the guys even cupped it? And you rebounded, power forwards, raise your hand, you know what I'm talking about, when you just bring it in like that. All right, and maybe you toss it out like that to start the break. Nancy was doing that. I met Nancy when she came for tryouts another time, when she came to Queens College to try out because we had the Pan American trials. And personally, I didn't think I was ready. I think we're about a class apart, maybe 4 years apart. I didn't think I was ready to try out for the Pan Ams. Nancy was still in high school trying out for the Pan Ams. I often speak about her when I do motivational speeches and I go to the camps and I talk to the young girls. And I tell them I had this teammate, Nancy Lieberman, and I pose this question to them. May 15th. That means you don't go to prom, you don't go to graduation, because we still have to train. So I say to them, Olympic team, prom. Olympic team, prom. Who would want the Olympic? Who would go to the prom? You know there is always a young lady said, I would have gone to the prom. Okay, you can leave the Pocono basketball team. When I tried out for the Olympic team, we went to so many regional trials. We went to the national trials. And the way I handle the trials, the training camps, is I put blinders on. I tell the kids, you know what blinders are? Like when you go to the racetrack and the horses have no blinders, and the kids say no, they don't understand. You're not supposed to know about the track. I had blinders on. I didn't really know how Nancy was doing, how Carol was doing, how Lucy was doing. I was just worried about the air because I had been there so many times for these tryouts. And forget the politics and the things that are out of my control. I can only control but so much. That's what I have to concern myself with. So I'm playing against people like Nancy, or like Pat Summitt, or like Annie Myers, or Lucy, or Carol Blaze. And I'm keeping my focus and doing well. The very last day, they post that list of the 12 players and the 3 alternates. Well, I already thought I had a terrible camp, even though I had been there for 5 days. If you're going to have a bad camp, they get rid of you by the second day. You don't get that third meal even on the bus. I was still there. Nancy was there. We were all there. That Friday night, maybe 8 or 9 o'clock, we had our last scrimmage. I thought I was terrible in the scrimmage. I felt like they scored a run. I went back to my room. I was packing my bags, and I know I'm going home. And then Nancy comes in, flaming red hair, screaming. You know how a 17-year-old, they're just, that was it. Please. She said, Gail, me and you, Queens, New York, we're on the Olympic team. I said, Nancy, you did that about me. It's a whole man week over there. You don't leave me alone. Nancy left me. She bopped down the hall to bother somebody else. And some of the other players come in. Some who were not selected. Other great players. Some of them in the current Hall of Fame. Their faces were red. The tears were in their eyes. But they came up and said, Gail, congratulations. You made the Olympic team. Well, Nancy and I were together. Nancy was the youngest on our Olympic team. She was the reddest hair on our Olympic team. She played with such passion. She played like the coaches didn't even know what to do. I remember we played against Czechoslovakia. And we were running a 1-3-1 zone defense. 1-3-1 zone defense. Nancy had the back of that zone. And the coach says, we played against Czechoslovakia, this is for the medal. And the coach, Billy Moore, says, you gotta run that whole baseline. Gotta run that whole baseline and play the defense. Czechoslovakia puts this corner shooter right down there in that baseline, right there in the corner. Nancy, that side ran all the way across, over there, jumped in the air, slapped that ball, blocked the shot, fouled the girl is down and tumbling. Nancy raised her hand and said, I fouled her. Go to the line, the girl was done. You know the girl was done, right? We won that game by about 15 points, I think. And we got a chance to have a medal around our neck. I often say I went to the Olympics, this is the clothes it does. We came back with a medal, one of the proudest times in my life and her life. So you could look at the program there. She got 2 pages of remarks. And 2 pages of history. She's the first year of this, the first one, the coach, the oldest one in the WNBA, the youngest one in the Olympic team. She's a pioneer. She's a trailblazer. Everybody else is standing on her shoulders. It's because of people like Nancy today that women get paid to play basketball. Because we paid before, and some of those teams still owe me money. They owe me money now. Okay? So it's women like her who just are fearless. They can go out there and say, I got next, and say, I want this guy, that guy. No, yo, I don't want you. I'll take you. She can do that, no problem. And she showed the way to do that so the others, we can feel comfortable saying, I got you, no, I don't got you. Yeah, come on. We can do that now. And she can grab the guy by their sleeves and tell them, or their collars and tell them, yeah, you need to rebound better, you need to do this better. And she's fearless. She said she's going to slip a 50 in my purse while I'm But I'd like to bring her up here so she can get her award, get her recognition. My friend, my teammate, my opponent, Nancy.
Just finished. I got to serve a few more tables before I get on board. Absolutely, you can't go anywhere. I'm still telling you what to do. All these years later. First, let me just say thank you to the committee, to the Lapchick committee for having me, for thinking so kindly upon me, and to, it seems like my lifelong relationship with Richard and Ann. Thank you for your love, your kindness, your belief, just everything you've done for me as a human being. I'm not sure if I represent all the things that your dad did, but I know we have the same love and passion for people. See, you get to see me standing up here today as, kind of polished and all shined up and somebody, who has done well in the world. But the truth is, I grew up in Far Rockaway, New York. I was a poor kid with no father and no food and no heat, and there were days we had no electricity. And I was angry, I was hurt, and I got tired of people telling me that I was stupid and dumb and I was never going to make anything of myself because I was a little white Jewish girl playing in the schoolyards with black kids. So I can't stand here before you today and say I knew that much about systemic racism or gender inequities or things that were happening in our world, but I can say that I built a defiance for people who were disparaging me, because sometimes we don't know somebody else's situation. Sometimes we don't know what somebody else needs. I was actually, you said frickin'? I was full of shit growing up. Okay, we're all grown-ups in this room. I was fraudulent, I was hiding behind my insecurities, my anxieties, because I didn't really have a role model. I didn't have anybody to kind of lead a path, and I was hiding behind this kid, Nancy Lieberman, who people thought, was a good basketball player. But I needed sports more than sports needed me. And it wasn't until I saw this man on TV one day who said he was the greatest of all times, and I fell in love with Muhammad Ali when I was 10. He changed my life. The black heavyweight champion of the world, the little Jewish white girl from Far Rockaway, New York. What looked unequal to you was equal to me, because he changed my life. I was able to use sports to get a scholarship to Old Dominion, and that changed my view on everything. We needed to win. I needed to be a somebody because I was actually broken. And the only person who would actually look me in the eye and tell me that he understood my story was after we won our first championship. And I was invited back here to New York to speak at the New York Stock Exchange on behalf of the Olympic Committee. So, the other athlete that day was Muhammad Ali. When I walked in the room, and there he was, the person who saved my life. It was like the Oprah moment, right? We all have that Oprah moments. And I couldn't believe he was sitting there. And my mother, who's 92 years old, she went over to him, she put her arm around his neck, she goes, Mr. Muhammad, my name is Rainey Lieberman from Queens. And my daughter, she's the greatest of all times. And it was this lady, there's only one greatest of all times. No, Mr. Muhammad, I know you're good and stuff, but my daughter, so he called me over. My heart was jumping. And I was like, hi, Mr. Muhammad, how are you? He goes, your mom says you're good. No, I don't know if I'm that. I'm the greatest of all times. And he goes, there's two of us? I said, yeah, and Mr. Muhammad, I hit people too. They made me feel bad. I was 19 years old. And he goes, I'm going to ask you to stop hitting people. I said, you hit people. He says, I get paid to hit people. And he just knew. He knew that I needed something or someone. And he guided me. To the day we buried him 5.5 years ago in Louisville, Kentucky, Muhammad Ali was in my life. And every big moment, small moment, were just to pick up the phone to call and say that he loved me. You know how kind of history has a way of in Scottsdale and holding his hand and feeding him and wiping his face, and Lonnie Ali giving me access and proximity to the man that changed my life. So somebody like Gail Marquis, an Olympian, an All-American, an incredible woman, you say to me, I did good things for sports. If it wasn't for Ali guiding me, I don't know where I'd be today. He knew that I was going to coach in the NBA before I knew I was going to coach in the NBA. But these are the lessons that I took from Ali in 1979. There's two people in life. There's givers and there's takers. He said, Nancy, I want you to be a giver. He said, God made you special. And I went, you know God? You know everybody. That is crazy. So he knew he had to be there for me. It was amazing to have this man call me in college, or see an 11-page article in Sports Illustrated my senior year and tell me thank you for talking about him. And then be able to feed him, like I said, and wipe his face, and have him talk to me about, my mom or my son as a parent. But the most important thing he taught me, and I always wanted to be, Gail knows this, I wanted to be the greatest of all times, because I needed it. I needed it for my own sanity. Or I could have been a victim of my circumstances, or I could be a victor of my circumstances. At first, I needed to win, to earn your respect for what I could do as an athlete, or to take the train by myself at 11, 12, 13 years old from Far Rockaway to Rucker Park. To be welcomed in to that community. Because what Ali taught me, he said, respect everybody and be, respect everybody but fear nobody. My whole life, I've never been afraid. I'm not afraid to go into Harlem. I'm not afraid to be with the African American community. I'm not afraid to be the giver. I'm not afraid to coach men in the NBA or the Big Three or the WNBA with women. I feel blessed and highly favored. God has looked highly upon me, given me so much in life that I never thought I would have. And that's why my charity, Nancy Lehman Charities, we've sent 80 high school seniors to college. We just opened up our 103rd Dream Court in Inwood, New York, right by Far Rockaway yesterday. We're going to do 5 more in Nassau County. We're getting ready to do the Kobe and Gianna Dream Court for Vanessa Bryant, 2 in Philly, 1 in California. And for me also to stand here in the name of philanthropy and say so much of us, so many of us in this room have been blessed with a lot. There's kids out there that don't have. They're scared, they feel hopeless, they feel helpless. And your legacy is not about what you did, your legacy is about what you do. That's the part of your dad's award that makes me happy. The days of me wanting to be the greatest basketball player in the world was super. But this is the most important work that I've been able to do. We've raised over $8 million since 2010, and we give it to the underserved community. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be able to do that. Because if you would have asked me 25 years ago, 30 years ago, it was all about me. Today, it's so much about, again, what Ali taught me. Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. What can I do for you? How can I help you? I don't want anything in return. And that's something like with my son TJ, who's a professional basketball player, 6'9", doesn't get punished anymore because he's a lot bigger than me. And I am a wise veteran mother. But to be able to see his involvement with charity and philanthropy and just being the giver, right, and not the taker. So today I stand before you humbled, honored. My friend Len Elmore, what you've done throughout your life and career is unbelievable, not just as a player, but as a man in our society. And Old Dominion is slightly behind Columbia, I think, academically. We're really moving that bar up. And Pete, for what you've done and having your family here, having known what you've done for so many years, it's an honor to be, with this astute class that gets this character award. So for everybody here, if you have a moment and you're thinking, what can I do? Find a charity, find somebody who doesn't look like you and give them a job. Find a woman of color who's making between 57 and 68 cents on the dollar, who's lowest on that totem pole of being given opportunities. Give that person an opportunity. Support people. Lift when you rise. And be that person. Don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to challenge what people have said the norm is. And I will leave you with this. When I was coaching the Dallas Mavericks G League team, the Texas Legends, in 2011, they made me the first female head coach in a men's professional league. I'm thankful to Donnie Nelson and the Mavericks and Coach Carlisle. I was invited by President Obama to go to the White House. I took my son with me that day. It's amazing, this thing called sports. It's a natural attraction. That was the day, remember the BP press conference where that was just a disaster? He couldn't wait to come to talk basketball with me. I'm talking to the president and he looks at me and he goes, Nancy, in front of my son who was like 15 at the time. He says, I've been a black man my whole life. I just happen to be the president of the United States of America. You have been a white woman in a man's world playing sports your whole life, coaching predominantly African-American men. He says it's normal to us. It's not normal to the outside public. It's our job. We have to make a commitment to make this normal for the masses. So I say to you today, when you see something that maybe doesn't align with what you believed or you thought, just be open-minded to the possibilities. That together we can forge change, we can make a difference, and we can come together in love, acts of kindness, and unity. We have to. We must. There's no question mark or comma. We must, and it starts with us. So again, I wish each and every one of you just many blessings. God bless you, and thank you, Richard and Ann. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this special day for you.
I'd like to take some, that was beautiful. That was amazing. I'd like to thank sponsors. We've had some sponsors that have been there year after year for this event, and that's Phil Whalen and Rich Zizek. Cannot appreciate what you guys do. And I apologize for leaving off a name earlier. I really, the gentleman who passed away this past year was Louis Rafael. He was on the 59 championship team, and people that know him and remember him as one of the most beautiful, nice people you'd ever want to meet. So certainly we're recognizing Louis Rafael. Our next recipient is someone we all know. We've all watched them play. And I gotta get my notes. I don't want to miss it. Because it is detailed, and you gotta remember what to leave out with, guys. I'm just gonna say it right now. Len Elmore went to Power Memorial High School. We all know about Power Memorial High School. Len Elmore went to University of Maryland and was an All-American. Len Elmore had a very, very strong NBA career, played on several different teams for a long period of time. Len Elmore is a great broadcaster. I knew I was getting into broadcasting, and doing some, and I was studying. Great broadcasting, great player, but it's unbelievable how that doesn't define him. How that doesn't define him. Even as a player at the University of Maryland, at a time when our country in the late 60s was under all sorts of stuff going on with riots and wars and everything going on, he was an activist. This is so perfect, this award for you. This award is it is everything that Len Elmore is about. And I am honored to be able to bring up both his sons that he has presented, Stephen and Matt.
So yeah, thanks for the beautiful presentation introduction. Thank you, Jim, Lapchick family. Thank you, Dad, for letting Matt and I come up here to speak on your behalf. And congrats to Coach Pete Gillen, the Hall of Famer, Ms. Nancy Lieberman. It's an honor to be here today amongst legends who you solidified legacies within the game of basketball, as we all know, but all your impact far transcended the basketball court. Which brings us to that. So when I first heard, when we first heard that you were named one of this year's honorees, I just thought about how proud and amazed we are to do what you have and continue to accomplish throughout your journey. And you just beautifully alluded to this, but when some people think of Len Elmore, Leonard J. Elmore, Joey, as much of the family calls you, especially this tight-knit basketball community we know and love, I think of his playing career, his television career. All those achievements and accolades. University of Maryland, 10 NBA seasons, one of the most prominent, respected, and for a time I would say ubiquitous basketball experts and media personalities in the game for 30 plus years. Because I was watching every other night on TV as a kid. It's amazing, but there are a few more things that Matt and I, we do want to add to this list because we all know Len is certainly too humble to do so himself. So Dad, you're a trailblazer and you're an inspiration. Former attorney. So after retiring from the Knicks in 1984, he went on to become he became both the only active and or retired NBA player to graduate from Harvard Law School, which I believe is still a feat that is standing today, if I'm not mistaken. A business leader and entrepreneur with decades of service on corporate boards, stewarding the NBA Retired Players Association through monumental reform as their president, which I know meant a lot to you. Excelling as a sports agent at your own firm before it was the status quo. Guiding 7 first-round NBA draft picks, including the #1 overall selection in 1995. Numerous NFL, Major League Baseball, and Olympic athletes through life transitions that only few experience and understand, and much of them Black men and women. And actually, I don't know if you remember, because you might have been too young, but I still remember waking up, rubbing my eyes, and coming into the living room and seeing Dominique Dawes, the famous Olympian, in our living room, and going over contracts with Mom and Dad. So I kind of got the sense of the impact that he had at that time, but didn't really understand it because I was so young. A true New Yorker, born in Brooklyn, New York, to Moses Elmore and Gladys Henson in 1952, the first of 4 children, later migrating to Springfield Gardens, Queens, where at the age of 6, one of our favorite stories that Dad told us, at the age of 6, I believe, this young, confident black boy told his teacher that he wanted to be a lawyer when he grew up, only to be advised by that same teacher to be more, quote-unquote, realistic. Which then I heard resulted in his mother, my grandmother, marching with little Leonard back into that classroom to have a little chat with that same teacher. Years later, here we are. And at the age of 15, this 6'7" slender teenager, I think you're 6'7", they might be taller, honestly, but
6'7", slender teenager being convinced by his phys ed teacher at the time to drop baseball, his favorite sport, and our first sports. And actually, by the way, little side note, I'm the firstborn. He made me a lefty because, he thought it might have given me a better chance to play some baseball. But, he began playing basketball at 15, only to admit to us years later that his first official jump ball ever, he had no idea how the players knew where to go. Like, they threw the ball up and just stood there, got elbow in the mouth, and just watched him play at 15. But just 2 years later, while going to school, commuting each day and night to Midtown from Queens and back with a job, he willed his way to become one of the most coveted prospects in America on what many still consider the best boys high school basketball team to ever play at the legendary Power Memorial. And here we are. Not only the all-time leading rebounder in Maryland basketball history, but also the only player to accompany 1,000+ rebounds with 1,000+ points in 3 seasons. I don't know if we'll ever see that again, given today's game, by the way. We'll see. But that was enough to land the votes on the 50 all-time greatest ACC basketball players in history, which recently was in your office looking at that list just for the hell of it. And just to see all that greatness on that list and just shake my head to this day to understand what that means. All these players that I grew up watching. So I just share this to say, we share this to say that all that is nice, and obviously as growing up as boys wanting to emulate our dad, as athletes, it's truly remarkable how the game of basketball can change one's life, as we all see here today. It takes you places you never would have imagined, brings you to people you never would have met, like our mother. But the power in that, and Dad's journey, and in those who are honorees today and in years past, is how one uses their platform to inspire others to enact change, to be their best selves, to inspire the next generation of leaders, to chase your dreams, your passions, and beliefs with the utmost conviction. And, we see Dad's example of that each day. We weren't alive to see him play, and that was great. He had an amazing career, but, we see that today and in years past, from the diligence you put into your craft, the preparation as a professor at Columbia, and in everything you did and do, commitment as a mentor and trusted advisor, to the selflessness that you exhibit when making time to engage with everybody. Like your students, like your colleagues, and your fans, and of course with us. You're an outspoken advocate using your platform to address social issues in which you truly care about, like diversity, inclusion, and equity. It's not always the most popular thing to do, as we all know, especially for folks in your stature, and your guys' stature, but it is the right thing to do. And Lord only knows how many future Lenomers you may have and continue to inspire to follow their true paths and their true purpose. So to exhibit that humility, intellect, passion, resolve, devotion to service, character, that's why you're here today. That's truly why you're here. So Dad, you inspire Matthew, you inspire me, I'm sure many in this room, countless others you've come across that you've met or you don't even know yet. So everybody, please join us in congratulating and welcoming my father, and I know more, to accept this year's Joe Lapchick.
Matt actually is well spoken as well. Like, big brother took over. And that Princeton and Columbia did pretty well. What you guys thought. But thank you guys, Stephen and Matthew Elmore. That's our legacy. Certainly with tremendous influence from their mother, my wife Gail. And our goal was to produce quality people. Industrious, fair, sensitive to the condition of others, seeking to advance truth, knowledge, and goodwill. And I think that's what we have. Good men, great partners, who seek to ably serve humankind. And I know we both are extremely proud of him. So let me begin, first of all, by congratulating my fellow recipients. Obviously, people I've known for a long time, Nancy and Pete. I hold you obviously in very high regard, and you're well deserving of this award. A special thank you to Richard Lapchick. Thanks for setting the pace for athlete activism and social justice in sports. It's so important, and obviously in my class at Columbia, you reference very often, and I truly appreciate that. Thank you to Jimmy Ty and the Foundation Committee, and Lori, congratulations to you as well. This has been a tremendous afternoon, and it's an extraordinary honor to receive an award named after someone who epitomized the descriptive words that include commitment to excellence, integrity, leadership, courage, and trustworthiness. And Coach Lapchick, from every perspective, was legendary in demonstrating those virtues. Equally extraordinary is that we take our places among the past recipients who are also legendary in their presence and in their impact on the game, and on the young people that they serve, and on all who looked up to them. And for me, it's even more personal. When I look at the names on the list, there's that 6 degrees of connection. Vern Lundquist was my partner at CBS Sports, my broadcast partner. And Vern, for me, was instructive, a comfort, an inspiration, and a joy to work with. John Kress, with whom I developed a friendship, and I have not forgotten. We became friends when he recruited me as a 16-year-old for St. John's in 1968. If the great Lou Carnesecca had not opted for the New York Nets before my senior year, I might have been a Johnny. Mike. And then there's Coach Pete Carrillo, who, with his passion for the game and teaching, made a huge positive impression on my late mom in his recruitment of me. And then there's the greatness of Archbishop Malloy, Coach Jack Curran. The late Jack Curran, who was such a formidable adversary against my school, Powell Memorial, for 2 years, in the years that we competed against each other. Coach Curran, not known to me at the time, actually got to know my late dad, who was a sanitation man, and he worked on the Lloyd route. And Coach Curran's program obviously produced 2 of my more memorable pro teammates and friends, Kevin Joyce and Brian Wimmers. Then there's John Thompson Jr., the legendary Georgetown coach who befriended me when he was a high school coach and I was a freshman at the University of Maryland. Coach Thompson coached at St. Anthony's. And he had strong words of encouragement for me when I was a bewildered, injured freshman at the time. He would come to Cole Fieldhouse to watch practice, and we'd both sit in the stands and talk about the future. And he gave me an awful lot of encouragement, as I mentioned, as we sat in the stands and spoke. But I saved my last tribute to a Lapchick Award recipient who had a great impact on me. And that's Naismith Hall of Famer George Rabb. Coach Rabb, that's who Coach Thompson came to see during those University of Maryland days. Coach Rabb was my college coach, Lefty Drizel's top assistant. First African-American assistant coach in the ACC, and he was responsible for recruiting me at the University of Maryland. Coach went on to have a great deal of success of his own as a coach. Then a basketball cultural influencer at Nike and so many other ways. But to this day, in his 80s, he still leads and inspires with his energy, his writings, his consistent communications on leadership and self-awareness. And when Coach Rabb speaks, I listen. He's going to model for me, and it is no coincidence that he too is a recipient of this prestigious award. So what I'm trying to say with these relationships is that they underscore the importance of having and developing relationships through coaching, through mentoring, and the impact that they've had on my personal work. Now, I speak with pride of the growth of my 2 sons and hope that the many virtues of their mother that they've embraced and that they've learned from. Also, that they've learned from my experiences as well, both from my triumphs and certainly from my mistakes. And the key characteristic that I learned from the experiences and perils of my parents and other family, and certainly from the great people I just enumerated, the key characteristic is resilience. The ability to again and again rise up and rise above adversity, even if it takes more than one concerted effort. You know, I also learned that the motivation for getting up off the floor is because of the love of others beyond the love of self. The strength of love and admiration is the fuel for that resilience in life. As a TV announcer, I often refer to players as being resilient on the playing surface. But while life is likened to a game, life is no joke. In the games, we get a chance to play. Life holds no guarantees. And everyone hits a wall, confronts demons, or even confronts themselves when they're standing in their own way. And the true strength is demonstrated by those who get back up and continue to rise when they're knocked down. And what ultimately gets you past the fear of the demons, who can devour hopes and dreams and confidence and your self-esteem, is the love one shows oneself and the knowledge of and the belief in the love others show in you. For without that fuel, we're running on empty, unable to get back up. In my life, when I was lost, my family and their love and support have been beacons that I could eventually and always point to and swim towards in the moments of need that helped me to avoid drowning in the treacherous waters. At various stages of achievement as a professional, I gained from my relationships with people like those that I mentioned earlier. The past award winners of whom I spoke are many, and among the many who in some small or in a significant way, at some stage in my life development, or looking at them either directly or indirectly through their actions or words, they played a role in how I could achieve and sustain whatever it is that I have accomplished in my public life. But before I step down from here, I want to deliver a specific message to young high school students from the Business and Sports School who are my guests today. But the message is also for anyone about to embark on a career journey or even a change of a career journey. Playing in the NBA and being a TV basketball analyst are what I'm generally known for. But they were just mere destinations. As I reminisce about the opportunities that I've had, the common denominators have been education, purpose, and passion. For me, who began as a young black man from a public housing in Brooklyn, through Howard Memorial Academy, you know, from a working class home, from moving from the projects to Springfield Gardens in Queens. And I don't know what was going on in Queens in the 70s, but I know in the 60s, Queens represented in basketball. Just want to make that clear. But getting to the University of Maryland, then obviously the blessing of Harvard Law School, education has provided me the aptitude and skills to do the job. Education has created relationships that put me in a position to advance beyond just basketball. And education has allowed me to make career decisions that have otherwise benefited me and benefited others. College is the place where leaders are developed. And no matter what anybody else tells you, that's me being good. Now, from the time I discovered a model to emulate the things I admired, I knew I had found purpose. And that man was a man that I picked up a book and read about, Paul Robeson, someone who was an All-American athlete, a lawyer, a renowned entertainer, and a human rights activist. So my advice to you is find your model. You've heard speakers before us. Find your model and emulate it. My involvement in sport, as an athlete, as an ambassador for the game, my career as a lawyer, and now in education, as a senior lecturer at Columbia University. And I'd like to thank my colleagues who are here today, and I appreciate the support. And also as co-chair of the Knight Commission, which is the independent group that leads in ideas and recommendations to promote transformational change, to prioritize college athletes' education, health, safety, and success. With all of that, I am now fully invested in something else, which is, again, my passion. So once again, my message, particularly to you students, but to everyone, you can do it all if you want. If you want it badly enough, you can do it all. Place no limitations on how you might define yourself. And absolutely do not let others define you, who you are, or what you can be. And secondly, remember that working in the service of humankind is our ultimate purpose. There's a songwriter, entertainer who I've listened to before, but she had some really poignant words. It's Janice Stanfield. And something that I'll always remember. Those words are, I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. So may God bless you all, and thank you for being here.
Our final recipient today is Pete Gillen. Native New Yorker, played both baseball and basketball at Fairfield University, was an assistant coach at a bunch of places. And I can't tell you how many times I would admire him from a distance at five-star basketball camp. I could watch him a lot of places, and also at the University of Notre Dame, and I think that periods of time then. He's a head coach at Xavier, at Providence, and Virginia. And I'm always awkward when people ask me my overall record, because Parcells used to say you are what your record says you are, so I used to avoid that, and it's not very good. But Pete Gillen's overall record really jumped out at me. 392 and 221 at those schools, Xavier, Providence, and Virginia. That is unbelievable. Also, again, maybe we met. Do you know how you have people you just admire and you just want to see what they're reading and see what they're saying? He is that to me. Unbelievable. Presenting for Pete Gillen today is John Good. John played at Tallentine, and he was Pete Gillen's first recruit at Virginia Military Institute, presently working at IBM. Let's bring up John Good.
By the way, for Wendy's sons, I work for a technology company. Now, Coach, we're the only thing between everyone here and Laura, so we're the last ones up. Good afternoon, and again, thanks for the kind words. Really appreciate it. Let me again congratulate Nancy, Len, and of course, Coach. I must admit, I was very humbled when Coach asked me to introduce him at this incredible and prestigious event. I wasn't sure what I could possibly add to his already storied coaching resume. However, what I can share are my personal experiences with Coach on and off the court. Coach is without question a master clinician, a teacher of the game, and his game day strategies and theatrics are legendary. That being said, his ability to evaluate and recruit basketball talent can only be described as masterful. And we'll start with me. We're not just here this afternoon to honor Coach for his coaching and recruiting accomplishments. We're here because Coach represents everything that is great about our game of basketball. And the people that have invested their lives in supporting and promoting this wonderful game. Coach is being honored this afternoon because he is so respected, so revered, so trusted, and so beloved. I want to share a quick story about Coach that I believe embodies all that Coach Lapchick believed in and practiced every day of his life. It is why we're here this afternoon. My parents passed away several years ago, and like many, I had the unenviable task of cleaning out their apartment in the Bronx. While sorting through my mother's bedroom nightstand, I came across an old shoebox containing what were my mother's most important and personal possessions. In the box was her Irish and American passports, Social Security card, green card, a few old pictures, religious medals, and a bottle of holy water from Our Lady of Lourdes, which I'm sure she sledged on Coach many times, and a handful of old letters. I want to share with you the context of 3 of these letters so that you understand their importance and why my mother kept them. There was a letter from her father dated April 1951, wishing her a safe journey to America. She would never see her home. A letter from her mother dated February 1956, congratulating my parents on their wedding. And then I saw the letter. It was in a yellow Virginia Military Institute basketball envelope, postmarked, postmarked April 1977. The letter is short to some, and it may seem rather simple. However, to my mother, it meant the world. And so, I'm going to read you the letter. Now, for Len and Bart, I do have to share this with you guys. On the back of this letter, it's VMI letterhead. Now, no one really talked about VMI, but I will for just 1 second. 1976, the Elite Eight. The first round, they beat the Ernie Burnett Show. Second round, they beat the Corzine and Clyde Bradshaw at DePaul. And the third round, they lost to Phil Sellers. And the Rutgers team, a great team, had they won that game, they go to the Final Four. The next year, Coach is there. They beat Norm Nixon at Duquesne in the first round, and they lose to Kentucky with Phillips, Roby, Givens, great teams. So that's all they got. So as a high school senior, junior, like, wow, that is so cool. So here's the letter. Now, if any of you have ever gotten a handwritten letter from Coach, he clearly went to Catholic private school. You know, Mother Alameda hit him on the numbers many, many times. And said, Pete, get the letters between the lines. He's got a very unique and disciplined handwriting. So very unique. So, and that's Coach in the upper right. I think he might have been about third at the time. So the letter's dated April 4th, 1977. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Good, I want to thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to show VMI to your son. John is a great person, and we would really love to have him at VMI. If he does choose our school, and this is the important part, I promise you that I will watch over him carefully and make sure that he graduates. Coach Gilbert. So, I want Coach and all of you to know, if John Wooden had come to my parents' apartment in the Bronx, it wouldn't have mattered. My mother had already And everything he stood, he was sincere, honest, humble, witty, but most of all, she trusted him. And that motherly instinct would pay off. Oh, and it didn't hurt that he was Irish. Although Coach moved to Villanova and Coach Massimino after my grad year, and for the use of the ladies, that's freshman year, even when we were grads as freshmen, that was promised to my father. He followed me through my 4 years. I graduated with a degree in civil engineering, and he's been a constant in my life ever since. His friendship towards my family and I has stood the test of time. Now, I was speaking with Ginny this week. His incredible life for 45 years, my surrogate mom while I was at BMI, and I asked her for some information that I could possibly use in my intro. Ginny shared with me a tidbit of information that I found quite interesting about Coach. I don't know if you all knew this, but Coach is a movie connoisseur. Every Friday night during basketball season, Coach would come home with a movie for them to share. And Jimmy would routinely ask me in a very fatigued voice, "What movie did you bring home tonight?" And he would reply with unbridled excitement, "Tonight we are watching Maryland Fairfield. You take the offense, I'll wait for the defense." I did share that with Jimmy. She had a little bit of editorial liberty. I'm honored to be here today, representing 44 years of players who Coach challenged physically, mentally, and academically. He gave us all a chance, an opportunity. He set the bar. Coach, I always remember something you said to me at 5-star, and the conversation went like this. I had a good game in the morning. I was feeling good. I said, "All right, Coach." And we're going into the cafeteria. I said, "Hey, Coach, I had a great game." You said, "John, you did, but there's no living on memories. And you have a game of 3 today, so get ready." And as a 17-year-old, I was like, "No living on memories? What the heck do you mean by that?" You know, I'm standing there, as she kept walking, I just stood there and I'm like, what could he have meant by that? Well, Coach, there may be no living on memories, but all memories of you last a lifetime. I know Coach Lapchick is looking down from his bench in the sky this afternoon saying, "Pete, this is what being a coach is all about." Ladies and gentlemen,
thank you, John, for the very kind words. I was at the University of Hawaii for a year, and unfortunately, some of our players had a commercial. A couple of coaches on the road, and we got fired. So they threw us in the Pacific Ocean, doing a backstroke like crazy. Piranha fish are biting at our goalie, that's Italian for rear end, and we wound up at VMI. And well, Hawaii, you sell the beaches, the beautiful women, the sunshine. Oh my God, it's heaven. Everybody wants to visit, but not everybody wants to come because, you know, it's a far away from home. It's 6 hours from California. So when I come to VMI, I know what do you sell? So I went up to John and I said, "John, you're not going to believe it. You got free haircuts, okay? You got white pants, you got uniforms. Girls love uniforms. You got buttons, you know." So I decided to come to VMI, you know. And I heard rumors when I was recruiting John that he's a terrific player, but he had trouble jumping over a New York City phone book. I said, "I'm not going to worry about that. He had a big phone book, so he's John had a terrific career at VMI, scored over 1,000 points. He was a terrific player when he was a freshman. We won 21 games, didn't play in the postseason, but he had a terrific career, and I'm really proud of him, doing a great job for IBM, traveling all over the world, to India, all over, representing VMI and his family, and I was proud of him. And I coached at 7 schools, 4 as an assistant, 3 as a head coach. All great places: Hawaii, VMI, Villanova, Notre Dame, Xavier as a head coach, Providence as a head coach, and Virginia. All great. I loved everyone. My favorite place was VMI. Why? Because of the type of young men we had there. We were fortunate. We had success. We won over 20 games both years. All right, but the type of young men we had were all doing 99% of it doing great. As attorneys or working for Hershey Chocolate or IBM. So it was a thrill to work at VMI for 2 years. I want to congratulate Nancy Liebman Klein for unbelievable career, and Lenny, unreal career. I mean, Nancy Liebman Klein could be one of the best women basketball players alive, dead, or yet to be born. She's unbelievable. She scored over 2,400 points and 700 steals. I mean, she was unbelievable. She had a great, great career. My guy worked with the CBS Sports Network. Carter Blackburn was a star. He does football and does basketball, SEC football, and some NFL games. He worked with Nancy and as a broadcaster, and he spoke the world of her. She's talented, terrific. So whatever she did extremely well. And Lenny had an unbelievable career at Maryland, Power Memorial Academy. A great, great player, a great broadcaster. Does the NCAA tournament, which I've never been fortunate to do. Unbelievable. You know, it was one of the greatest teams ever, Power Memorial Academy. Now, I got some information here, okay, that by a friend of mine, Art Kenny, said, which is the best Power Memorial Academy team ever? Well, there were some great teams. Lenny was on a great team. Lenny was an All-American, all right? Ed Searcy was an All-American. Jack Trimble was an unbelievable team. But Art Kenny had a guy named Lou Alcindor, wasn't bad, right? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right? Art Kenny was a designated screener. I can't lie, I'm going to be honest with you. He was a designated screener, right? And, you know, a guy named Jack Bedford. So 2 unbelievable teams. I talked to people. Lenny's team was the best. Art team was the best. This team says, you know, that Art was the best, but hey, I'm just going to leave it. And it's a conundrum. Now, I don't know what the word conundrum means, but they said, say something where, you know, impress people. So, there's a conundrum. Figure it out, get a dictionary. I don't know what conundrum means. But 2 great teams, and, you know, getting an award with Nancy Liebman Klein and Lynn Elmo is a great honor. They're terrific people, super talented, and it's an honor to be with them this afternoon. I also want to thank the Joe Lapchick Foundation Committee for selecting me as one of the honorees. It's a super prestigious award. It's a humbling award. To be mentioned in the same sentence with Joe Lapchick, even for one day, is a tremendous honor. Because he represented all was right. The winning was great, sure, but he was an honorable man. He had integrity, he had morality, and respect. Who's going to turn down Bob Cousy? Bob Cousy, great freshman player, Holy Cross. He won the national title that year in 1947. He was a freshman, all right, to come to St. John's. Today, that's unbelievable. It's unheard of. So, and the respect he had to people, as Jerry Houston so eloquently put it, to be in the same sentence with him just for a day is an unbelievable award. You know, so it's great. Now, when I was coming in, I saw a media guy. He came up to me and said, "You Pete Dillon?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm Pete Dillon." He says, "Yeah. Now, did you coach in the ACC and the Big East?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh my God. Did you coach in the Big East against Jim Boeheim, Hall of Fame coach? Jim Calhoun, Coach John Thompson II, unbelievable coach?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Oh my God." He said, "Also in the ACC against Coach K, the winningest coach ever. Roy Williams, another Nation Hall of Fame. Gary Williams, another Nation. Oh my God, you coach against all those guys plus other great coaches?" I said, "Yes." He said, "How do you sleep at night?" He said, "Not very well. Every 2 hours I woke up and cried like a baby." So it was tough to coach against those guys, but I was fortunate to be that. You know, as I say, no man or woman's an island. An island, obviously, is a body of land surrounded by water. Nobody can do it by themselves. So I shared this prestigious honor, certainly with Lenny, okay, and Nancy, but also, all right, with my family, okay, and a lot of people I share it with. Most of all, my wife, married for 45 years, you know, and we traveled 7 different schools all over the country, from Hawaii, VMI, okay, and she packed up and everything, and she couldn't be here. She has some underlying situations, you know, not super serious, but a little nervous about coming. All right, so, but she put up with me. 45 years married to me. I'm not walking apart, but she said something, you know, "You've only been home for 17, so she can make it so far. I travel a lot." So, people sleeping. No. I said, but, 17, I've only been home, so she put up with me. She said, you don't walk in the park, but I can deal with 17 out of 45. And I want to share with my children, my son Brendan and Shannon. I'm proud of both of them, as all parents are of their parents. My son is a writer director for a production company, and my daughter helps professors with their online courses. Both of them way out of my league. If they would stand up, Brendan, Sharon, please, can we recognize my son and daughter? I always embarrass my daughter. I always embarrass everything. I said something just at lunch. I embarrassed. That's my job. Dad's embarrassed their daughters. That's part of the thing. So I'm proud of them for their careers. What they've done. They're doing a great job. And I was fortunate to be part of the CSSAA. I want to share this award with them. I was a basketball player at Brooklyn Prep High School many years ago. It was right around the Franco-Prussian War. It was a while ago. No, Rasputin. Now letting you know, Rasputin. He was in junior high school. Rasputin, the evil monk. He was not, Franco-Prussian War. Rasputin was in junior high, so it was a long time ago. So I played there at Brooklyn Prep, and it wasn't a great play, but. I doesn't even know this. We got to the semifinals of the city championship, played against Malloy, great Jack Curran coach, Rudy Bogart, and we got knocked off. And but we were a pretty good team. The biggest guy was 6'2", so we ran into Art Kenny and lost. Would have been a long night for us for sure. But I'm going to share it with them. But this CSA is a great league. Now, as a head coach for 20 years, we coached against a lot of great players, a lot of great coaches. Great coaches, we mentioned about the ACC, all right, the Big East also we coach against, all right. Larry Brown, unbelievable coach, okay. Mark Few, a legend right now at Gonzaga, okay. Denny Crum, okay, unbelievable coach. Dick Bennett, Tony Bennett, Virginia coach, his dad was at Wisconsin, a great coach against him. Tom Izzo from Michigan State, all right. Lou Olson from Maryland, coaches, all those guys, and they're all great coaches, make them all great. We're fortunate to be a couple. But we also coached and played against CHSA coaches, Catholic High School Athletic Association. Who were they? Well, Jack Curran, unbelievable coach. Sadly passed away a few years. Ray Nash, okay, great coach. Bobby Leckie, all right. Donnie Kent, all right. Jim Gatto, all right. Brendan Malone was a high school coach at Powell Memorial Academy, all right. All these guys are phenomenal coaches. Do a great job. And Gus Alfieri, who can't be here today, St. Anthony in Long Island, was a great coach. I watched his team play. Richie Simkis, who played at Princeton, terrific player. All right, Tommy Hicks, who played at Virginia. Gus was a phenomenal coach. All right, as well as Frank Morris from St. Angus in Long Island. And go on and on and on. A lot of great coaches. Okay, so these great coaches that I talked about in CSSA and Long Island, they can coach with the great ones. Okay, there's a saying. Okay, that good fences make good neighbors. Probably from us. I'm hanging with you. All right, good fences make good neighbors. Okay. But good players make good coaches. Good players, all right? I was fortunate. I had 3 lottery picks. I coached 3 lottery picks. I tried to mess them up, but I didn't. I had 3 lottery guys, all right? And Tyrone Hill, who played for St. Xavier, played with Iverson, get to the finals. Unfortunately, he got knocked off in the finals, okay, by the Lakers. He was a great player. Brian Grant was another 6'9", tremendous player with Sacramento. Was a great guy that played. And Austin Crozier, Larry Bird's first recruit. So, you don't do it without great talent. So we were fortunate to win games, but we had some great players along the way. So we're very fortunate with that. I was part of the 5-star basketball camp. A great camp. That changed my life. I thought I knew a little bit about the game. I went there. I got my belt on, all right? And we're playing, coaching against Rick Pitino and Buddy Gardner and these great coaches from all over. And Bobby McKillop was there, Bob Hurley from Jersey City, who got on it before, and all these coaches at my program. So I go into the draft the first night, and they put 12 names in a hat. You pick out of the hat, okay? And for 3 years in a row, I got like 6th to 7th pick, which is bad because you get 1 to 12. So the first pick, you get a great player, you know what I mean? And then you go down. So 3 years in a row, I got a bad pick. And 3 years in a row, this guy, we mentioned his name, he got number 1 pick. How does he get the number 1 pick every year? And Larry, Howie Garfinkel, he says, hey, jerk. He palms the 1, all right? And he goes in, all right? Everybody picks a hat, he's got the 1 in his hand, he picks it out. The number 1, 3 years in a row. So, welcome to New York in the big time basketball. So he palmed the 1, he didn't put it in the hat, he had it in his hand. So I learned, I said, after the 3rd year, I did my belt wrong. I said, hey, Frank, forget you, you're not going to take the draft, you're out, I'm in. But Ellie Garfinkel, Will Klein, all right, did a great job, and Lee Klein, his son, were wonderful. I learned a lot. You hear, people talking, Chuck Daly giving a talk, okay, Dean Smith giving a talk, and all these great people, Bobby Knight, it was unbelievable. And the stations were great, it was unbelievable. There were a couple of people from the Five-Star family here. I'd like to stand up. Joe Stolzer, all right, and Barry Ross, stand up, give us a hand, please, Five-Star guys. Barry's a big Yankee fan, a little nervous about the game tonight with the Red Sox. I really want to thank them also. I want to thank Fairfield University. I was lucky to go to Fairfield University. Experimental admissions, I get in. Lenny was a Hall of Famer, and Artie was brilliant. They didn't want to give me the rock test. They didn't want, that's too tough for me. Which hand is a rock in? They didn't want to give me that. You can't pass that. They gave me the boulder test. They gave me the big ball. Which hand is a boulder in? Now, I'm from Brooklyn. I don't trust anyone. I don't trust that. I'm looking around. It took me about, it was a limit 10 minutes before you picked. You're in. So I got in. Experimental lesson, but it was sad. But it's a great school. And I was a walk-on the first 2 years, no scholarship. Luckily, last 2 years I got a full scholarship. George Mazzaka was my college coach, a wonderful man, a great coach. He brought Fairfield from Division II to Division I. And we beat, when I was there, I didn't have much to do with it. Artie did. I sat on the bench, I had a pulled oblique muscle. I don't know what that is. I told him I had a pulled oblique. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. What is that? You have to pull your oblique? So my oblique was bad for about 4 years, sitting on the bench. Fairfield's a great school, all right, and Art Kenny, I roomed with him on the road, and he's a tremendous player, he had a great career power. Him and Lenny had two unbelievable teams, you got this figured out. But Art was a great player, had his number retired. He's in the Fairfield University Hall of Fame. And Olympia Milano in Italy, he was even a better player. He was a great player in Fairfield, but even better when he got to play in Europe. Olympia Milano retired his number. First player ever. Now, ever's a long time. I wasn't that small. I know ever's a long time. First player ever to get his number retired, okay, number 18 at Olympia Milano. And then a couple years later, Mike D'Antoni, you're familiar with, he got his number retired. Art had a great career. He was kind enough to invite some of my classmates from Fairfield down. Oh, you stand up, please. Art Kenny, stand up, come on, Art. Another guy, I played with, he played for Hartford Public High School. It's a tremendous basketball program in Hartford many years ago. And we played against Houston, number one team against country. At 1968, Houston beat UCLA with Lou Alcindor, and then Lou Jubilant, of course. They beat in the Houston, whatever it was, the Astrodome. They beat 3 days later. We had to play them. Fairfield University had to play Houston, okay? With Elvin Hayes and Kenny Spade and Don Cheney. So we're playing against them in the Delmar Fieldhouse. There's a live cougar under the bench. Drugged up, thank God. Because if there's any kind of fight broke, I had to jump in front of the starters to make sure nobody hurts the starters. So cougar gets out of my cage, I'm dead because I got myself a couple of minutes to protect the starters. That was our game plan. So we played them. Don Cheney's great defender. I was with him in Dream Team number 2 in 1994. Great guy, great defender. He guarded Billy Jones. Full court. That's a mistake. That's really shaky. Billy Jones had more moves than a can of worms. And he shook, bouncing all over the place. So he made Don Cheney fall down. Made him fall down. But he had a great career at Fairfield University. A tremendous player, even a better guy. We can recognize one of my teammates, Billy Jones. Billy, stand up, please. And Fairfield, fortunate to have our athletic director here. He's been here 3 years. We got a brand new facility coming in Fairfield, all right, building on the top of the old alumni halls. You can see about 3,500. I hired Jay Young, who's a tremendous coach. Last year, Fairfield got to the finals of the MAC tournament. This year, they got a lot of the guys back. They should be very, very competitive, very good. Jay Young texted me this morning. He says that he loves to go and he has to recruit in. And obviously, recruiting's the name of the game, but he couldn't make it. Share this honor with everyone. Okay, but AD is here for 3 years. He's done a great job. New facilities, building up the program. Paul Schlick. Will Paul stand up, please? Get recognized. Paul. And the last gentleman is a guy who's at Fairfield for 23 years. 23 years. Did an unbelievable job at Fairfield. He's in the National Association of Collegiate Athletic Directors Hall of Fame. Athletic Directors Hall of Fame, the NACDA, done a wonderful job. All right, if we can recognize him. Gene Dorff, Gene, stand up, he's the Hall of Fame. He's got a better I can slip it, everybody has a little bit, but Fairfield's a wonderful place, and I was fortunate to be there, got a great education, and I was, Coach Mazak was great to me and took good care of me, which is wonderful. Another person I'd like to thank is the schools that hired me. Fairfield, it was a great, great place to go. The schools that hired me, Xavier University, Providence, and Virginia as a head coach, it's a great, great honor. And being part of USA Basketball, I was an assistant there for Dream Team number 2. C.M. Newton was in the Naismith Hall of Fame, and it was a Joe Lapchick Award character winner. And I was fortunate to be part of that. I'd like to tell you one brief story with the Dream Team. All right, we were up in Toronto. Don Nelson is our head coach. Okay, Rick Majerus assistant, Don Cheney was the other assistant, and met an elevator with Sean Kemp. Sean Kemp, 6'9", the high school player, right from high school to the pros. And we also had, we had Shaquille O'Neal was on the team, and Reggie Miller, Alonzo Mourning, Derek Coleman was a killer from Detroit. Great, great team. So I went to Sean Kemp in the elevator. And he knew me because I was assistant on Notre Dame, so he was out there in Elkhart, which is right near South Bend, Indiana. And so I said, "Hi, Sean, how you doing?" "Hi, Coach." We're going down the elevator. He says, "Coach, you look outside." I said, "No." He says, "It's raining." I said, "That's great." He says, "Coach, do you know my name?" "Sorry, I don't." "It's the Rain Man." I said, "Oh, that's great." He says, "When it rains, I play great." I said, "Oh, that's wonderful, Rain Man. That's good. Hope it keeps raining." I said, next thing I said, I didn't want to be a wise guy, but I wanted to be, I said, "Sean, suppose it's sunny out." He says, "The Rain Man plays great, rain or shine." So I didn't worry about it. I knew he was going to play great. Another thing, we had a shooting contest. Shooting contest. Mark Price, unbelievable shooter. Okay, Reggie Miller's on the team, unbelievable shooter. Okay, and Dan Morley, 3 shooting practice, shooting for money. After practice, the great shooters from 25 feet, boom, boom, 20 foot swish, boom, boom, boom. So I asked Dan Morley, I used to call him Thunder Dan. I said, "Dan," I said, "you're a great player, great shooter." He says, I said, "When do you know when to shoot and when to pass?" He says, "Coach, when in doubt, I shoot." But I always stand down, so I'm shooting all the time. It felt like Leonard was going up with him. Don't worry about it. It didn't pass. But he was fortunate to be part of that. And I was also fortunate to be part of CBS Sports Network. I've been doing that for 16 years. Lenny's done an unbelievable job, one of the icons in our business, and watch him, and he does a phenomenal job as an analyst, and Sean McManus and David Person, being part of that family, CBS Sports Network, it's been a great honor. And one last thing I'll leave with you, and I'm sorry if I took too long, because it takes me 5 minutes to get my hands warmed up, so it takes me a little longer time. But, a friend of mine is 93 years old. He said to me, "Pete, every day's a gift, every day's a blessing, every day's a treasure. Every day's a gift, every day's a blessing, every day's a treasure." And I didn't believe me. He didn't say that every time, but every third time we talk, 2 or 3 times a month. And after 3 or 4 years ago, I see, unfortunately, Kobe Bryant, the accident, with the helicopter and all the different things happened. I said, he's right. It's true. There's a lot of negativity in the world, a lot of negativity, and Joe Lapchick was somebody who brought out positivity, with praising everybody, respecting everybody, honoring everybody, being, a tremendous man of integrity, morality, and character. Joe Lapchick was that, and I think it's true. Every day's a gift, every day's a treasure, every day's a blessing. Today was a gift for me and our family, the CSSAA people at Fairfield that I was a small part of, and thank you for being here, and I humbly accept this award, and it's a great honor. Thank you very much.